healthcare CEO being shot. I don't know if any news is broken about the motives in the last hour or so, but
we don't know who the shooter is, so we have no idea what his motive is.
So without knowing, it's pretty clear and pretty obvious without knowing. And even if it's not clear or obvious and it turns out to be something else in this case, it's pretty clear and obvious that because of Republican ethos, because of right-wing conservative ethos of letting companies steal from us and promoting rage and promoting gun culture, someone decided to take, matters into their own hands because United Health. Now, that's not clear yet in this particular case, but that would be that's a pretty easy assumption. And even if it turns out not to be the case, it's a through line, between Trumpists, Elon Muskists, destroying our culture.
Yeah, the bottom line, Brian, is it's a great opportunity to talk about a great opportunity. That sounds like I'm cheerleading for somebody's death. I'm not, but it presents an opportunity to the news media to talk about Medicare Advantage and the practices of big insurance, but they're not going to take that opportunity. Sadly, until or if we learn what this guy's motive was. I mean, it's possible that the CEO of United Healthcare had an affair with this guy's wife. I mean, we just don't know, right? We just don't know.
It's possible, but it doesn't matter entirely. I mean, it matters for that particular case, but the through lines of the connection that people are drawing, whether they're true or not, are not untrue. Like, even if, okay, this guy, it was an affair. Still, the through lines of the people getting screwed by billionaires, by CEOs, by healthcare, getting culture promoted.
There's a whole thread over on Democratic Underground basically speculating, is this the People's Uprising? And I don't want to go there. I don't think that's healthy, and I don't think this is that. I think we're away from that, frankly. But Brian, thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
I don't know if you have heard that the United Healthcare CEO was shot and killed this morning.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, I don't think this was random. In my opinion, this is a result of activities, the decisions made by United Healthcare. Our state has had, as a retired state employee, they've had us on United Healthcare for a couple of years. And when I received paperwork from United Healthcare that so far my healthcare has, my providers, the hospitals, the clinics, the doctors have submitted $6,800, and they've paid a total of $1,800. And this is Advantage Medicare. And what did they get, Tom, last year? $149 billion? Isn't that what you reported in January?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay. And so you have a CEO shut down on the street, and I'm hoping that this is not a continuous pattern of people who they've watched someone die because they're denied. My chiropractor was denied the last time I went. The only payment they received was a $15 copay out of my pocket. Okay. And that, this is.
So
I've been denied an MRI.
Pocan?
When can we have expanded Medicare? Please, y'all do what you can and see if you can't get some kind of control over these companies that are not paying the doctors, the clinics, and the hospitals. It's all going into their pockets. This is Reagan's doing, changing the law.
Let's let him answer the question because we only have 20 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, Norma, the real problem is just the way Medicare Advantage works. You have to get prior authorization for care. They deny millions of claims a year. Over 80%, I forgot the exact number now, over 80% of them get turned over in appeal. It shows that they're just trying to nickel and dime, but that means your life is at risk and your illness can continue, especially at a vulnerable point in your life. So people should just be aware of that. I think this is the end of that open enrollment period where people sign up, Tom. It's good to remind people.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to write another op-ed about Medicare Advantage. It's been a while. Thank you. 51 minutes past the hour. Congressman Mark Pocan is with us for the hour, taking your calls. We'll be right back on the other side of this break with Congressman Pocan answering your questions. Stick around. In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com. Time is getting tight, and I need you to take this very seriously. We, Free Speech TV, for a couple of years, we were doing fund drives that were running 3 and 4 weeks, and it was just kind of really stretching out. And they decided, let's just do nice, tight 2 weeks and just make it very clear to everybody that it's only 2 weeks that we're going to be talking about this. And get your contribution in if you want to participate in this extraordinary network, if you want to help keep this network going, if you want to be part of this network network that has educated so many of us, right? I learned from Free Speech TV. I'm sure you learned from Free Speech TV. I love learning. It's one of the main reasons I do half of what I do. It's life constant. You constantly want to be learning through life, right? And this is one of the great educational pieces. Education is such a vital component. And, Free Speech TV understands that. And when you give to Free Speech TV, by way of education, for example, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, every single one of them autographed by the author. That's kind of cool, right? I like it because I'm the author, but I put a lot of work into those books. And I learned a lot in the course of writing them about guns, about health care, about the right to vote, about the Supreme Court, about, oligarchy. So with a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which includes a Free Speech TV cookie, the copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and some other goodies that get thrown in. With a $100 gift, they will plant a tree for you. And as I said, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 books. So in that context, and in honor of the education we all get from Free Speech TV, here's President John Kennedy, May 18th, 1963, talking about that very topic.
But the educated citizen knows how much more there is to know. He knows that knowledge is power, more so today than ever before. He knows that only an educated and informed people will be a free people. That the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all. And that if we can, as Jefferson put it, enlighten the people generally, tyranny and the oppressions of mind and body will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of day. And therefore, the educated citizen has a special obligation to encourage the pursuit of learning, to promote exploration of the unknown, to preserve the freedom of inquiry, to support the advancement of research, and to assist at every level of government the improvement of education for all Americans, from grade school to graduate school. Secondly, the educated citizen has an obligation to serve the public. He may be a precinct worker or president. He may give his talents at the courthouse, the state house, the White House. He may be a civil servant or a senator, a candidate or a campaign worker, a winner or a loser. But he must be a participant and not a spectator.
There you go. President John Kennedy talking about education, and it's so true. And it's so sad to watch right now as we're up to, I believe, 4 or 5 states now that are doing statewide voucher systems to try to destroy their public education systems because Republicans hate teachers' unions and you know, they would really rather people were not all that well informed about civics and science and, you know, hey, let's just go with superstition. I mean, now you've got a couple of states where kids can learn religion during their classroom times. It's just crazy. Anyhow, we work hard to educate people here on Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a source of education. I think one of the better sources of education about certainly what's going on politically and what's going on, you know, with our republic and around the world, for that matter. So please call now 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. This network has just done such a spectacular job. The people who are running this network really work hard to keep it going, to keep, you know, the more smoothly things operate, the more effortless things seem, the more work went into them. It's one of the things about the media, and I think it's true probably for pretty much any art form as well. You know, whether it's writing or painting or whatever, that people just think, oh yeah, you know, you just open the microphone and talk, or oh yeah, you just set up a camera, and it's just no. A lot of work goes into putting these programs together. A lot of work. And a lot of work goes into keeping this network running, dealing with the business side of it, dealing with the economics of it. It's one of the reasons why monthly contributions, regular monthly contributions, if you sign up not just to get, you know, a one-time gift or make a one-time donation, but also to donate every single month so that Free Speech TV can budget, so that, you know, the people who are running the network can look at the budgets and say, oh, here's what we can expect. It's so important. It's just so important. So please consider making a one-time contribution and a regular monthly contribution. 877-378-8669. Free Speech Day. Thank you so much for your support. Please.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, happy Tuesday. A lot going on in the world. I say that a lot, but it's like the news just never stops. I mean, it's just incredible. The oligarchs are at the gates. Well, actually, they're no longer at the gates. Well, in 6 weeks, they'll be moving into the White House. $400 billion worth of oligarchs moving into the White House. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. Also, 9 states are set to lose health care coverage for millions of Americans once Trump takes office, or when Trump takes office, if he keeps his promises. And a right-wing federal judge just blocked the Affordable Care Act for dreamers. This is, what's Trump going to do about this? I mean, his message to Kristen Welker was more compassionate, but I'm skeptical. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Also, in the second hour of our program, the next time your employer has asked you to fill out a survey, think twice, especially if your boss or corporate culture is sociopathic. And Rupert Murdoch loses a battle to control the secession of his media empire. Will Fox's so-called news be affected? I'm skeptical about that, too. I'll tell you that in the second hour. Also, who's running Syria now? Some fascinating background on this Jelani guy who is now running Syria. I'll tell you all everything that I've learned here today. And in our third hour, our one guest for the day, Heidi Siegmund Cuda, is going to drop by about her piece, We Need a Lion. So a lot to talk about here. The oligarchs are no longer just at the gates. This is my op-ed at HartmannReport.com. And, basically what I'm pointing out is that we have never been in this kind of a situation. I mean, we've had oligarchs influencing policy. We've had, and we've seen pushback. I mean, in 1887 in his State of the Union address, President Grover Cleveland, the only Democrat who was elected in the post-Civil War era in the last half of the 19th century, Grover Cleveland came out and said, we have trusts and combinations, and the average person's neck is crushed beneath the iron heel of the giant corporations and the industrialists. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. You can look it up. Teddy Roosevelt famously fought back against the robber barons, and Franklin Roosevelt actually beat them. Teddy Roosevelt at least got an estate tax passed. But here we've got the richest man in the world who controls the world's largest social media platform and the world's largest internet crucial satellite technology system, and basically a good chunk of our space program about to move into the White House with Donald Trump, or basically, about to play a major role in running the White House, and that this guy has been regularly communicating with Vladimir Putin. I saw a post on Blue Sky this morning of somebody who is writing a biography of Elon Musk. I believe it was Seth Abramson. And he said, I've been, really digging into this guy, and he really does want to live forever. He really does want to rule the entire world, and he really does want to be the world's first trillionaire. And, we'll see if any of that is true. It doesn't seem out of the realm of probability in my mind. So what do we do about this? I mean, Nina Burley was writing over at the New Republic, and she wrote, whose side will the military take, Trump's or the people's? Will America come to resemble Argentina in the 70s and 80s, the enemy within rounded up and held without charges? Will women be stopped at state borders and hormone tested for pregnancies? Will Americans watch behind closed curtains as men in military garb, maybe without identification, hustle their neighbors away? Will we hear of but never see the concentration camps deep in the barren western deserts surrounded by razor wire? These are serious questions, and all are well within the realm of possibility. Idaho just confirmed that they're going after women and girls who leave the state for abortions. The governor of Texas just unveiled land that Trump can use to build concentration camps for the enemy within. The guy Trump wants to run the FBI, Kash Patel, he has actually published an actual enemies list of Americans, American citizens. I mean, the Wall Street Journal has confirmed that, or at least they claim to have confirmed that Elon Musk has been having back-channel communications with Musk. I think it's funny how everybody on the internet now is calling him Muskrat. Apparently engaging in regular communications with Russian officials, including Putin. I mean, that's not just political evolution. That's a direct threat to democracy worldwide. And, look how this plays out in real time. I mean, Ukraine was sending drones to attack the Russian fleet in Crimea, and they were guided through the internet via Starlink, and Musk cut off their satellite service. And they had to abandon their attack on Putin's ships that were being used to fire missiles into Kyiv, into Ukraine. I mean, what we're looking at right now is the collapse of democratic norms right across our system. Starting with Musk. Here's a federal contractor. There's a federal law that says federal contractors can't put money into federal elections. Well, the entire Federal Election Commission has been paralyzed for at least a decade by the Republicans on its board. They refuse to investigate any Republicans, period. So, I mean, this new power structure is emerging here in the United States where billionaires run the country. Trump has so far 11 billionaires and several multi-millionaires, near billionaires in his cabinet. His cabinet is worth about $400 billion. Keep in mind, Joe Biden's entire cabinet was not even worth $1 billion when he came into office. In fact, it wasn't even worth 0.2 billion. It was worth a little over $100 million. And we're talking, what, 30 people? 20 some odd people? So probably, most of that money was the value of their homes. And then we've got, billionaires controlling our media. You've got Musk controlling Twitter, X. You've got Facebook, controlled by Mark Zuckerberg, who says he's, looking forward to working closely with Donald Trump. You've got Mr. Soon Chong, the owner of the LA Times. He's now trying to put AI on his news stories to apparently spin them to the right. I don't know. Jeff Bezos, the billionaire anti-union owner of Amazon, or majority stockholder of Amazon, owning the Washington Post and saying, no, you can't endorse Kamala Harris. I mean, these lines between corporate power, billionaire interests, government authority, public knowledge, and foreign influence they're not blurred, they're just vanishing. And it doesn't stop with Russia. I mean, we now learn that Elon Musk was lobbied by Putin, according to the Wall Street Journal, to restrict satellite coverage over Taiwan as a favor to Xi Jinping, the leader of China. Now, this is a private citizen with no government oversight making decisions that impact international security based on conversations with foreign leaders. We've never seen anything like this before. But both Russia and Hungary have seen something like this before. In Russia and Hungary, the oligarchs took over. The oligarchs are running the country. They have, in the case of Russia, Putin and Orban, both of them were civil servants. They were, middle-class guys. Both of them now are billionaires. I mean, this is extraordinary. So what do we do? I mean, this is a call to action. The Democratic Party needs to get its act together. We need to remember the caucus room conspiracy. I talked about this at length on this program back in 2009. After Obama was elected in 2008, Louise and I we had just moved to Washington, D.C. We were living in an apartment building at the corner of 9th and E Street, as I recall. And on the back end of our building was another building, and in the ground floor of that building was a restaurant called the Caucus Room, a famous restaurant in Washington, D.C. And the leadership of the Republican Party, this was the night that I was at one of the balls with Ellen Ratner, and we were dancing with Barack and Michelle. That night, that very time, they were having this meeting in the Caucus Room restaurant, where the Speaker of the House and the Senate Republican leader and a whole bunch of high-level Republicans, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, et cetera, they decided that they were going to absolutely fight everything Obama did for the next 4 years. They were not going to let him have any victories whatsoever, and even if he did have victories, they were going to fight them as hard as they could and as far as they could. And what are we hearing from Democrats right now? Oh, I look forward to working with President Trump. I don't get it. Surrendering in advance is not leadership. Over the next couple of days, I'm going to talk at some length about exactly what we should be doing or could be doing. And I'll get into more detail, but, number one, show up at your local Democratic Party meetings. Number two, join organizations that are fighting, like, Indivisible and others. Participate in social media. Call out the abuses of the morbidly rich and the corporations.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I think we can still rescue this country. I really do. It's 16 minutes past the hour. I'll be right back. And welcome back. Mike in Madison, Wisconsin. Hey, Mike, what's on your mind today?
I just was wondering, whatever happened to term limits? I thought they were going to have term limits for senators and Congress people, like 8 years or 2 terms. And now you got guys like Grassley from Iowa. He's 95 years old, still serving. You got Ted Cruz. He's been there forever. Same with Lindsey Graham. These people are using their positions as senators just for their own platforms.
Well, we have term limits, Mike. They're called elections. The president, of course, is term limited to 2 terms, but there are, I believe, 9 or 10 states now that have put into place term limits over the last 30 years. This was something that was, really enthusiastically promoted by the Republican Party back during the Reagan Revolution. And the Heritage Foundation was promoting the idea of term limits for members of Congress. And while it hasn't been done federally, it's been done in I believe, a little fewer, just fewer than a dozen states. And what we've learned is that when you put in term limits, particularly relatively short term limits, like 4, 6, 8 years, maybe 10 years, that what happens is the institutional knowledge, the old timers who know where the bodies are buried, the people who really know how to get things done, the people who have developed good relationships with the media, the people who are the movers and shakers, they get kicked out. So when new guys come in, they look around and they say, who's going to teach me how this place runs? And the only people who don't get kicked out when you have term limits are the lobbyists. The lobbyists have been there 20, 30, 40 years, some of these guys. In fact, many of them are ex-legislators. So the lobbyists, when you have term limits, the lobbyists acquire an extraordinary amount of influence and power. And that's what we've seen in those states that have put into place term limits, is that the power of the corporations and the lobbyists has increased exponentially, and the power of the individual legislators has actually decreased. It actually works to the detriment of average people and works to the benefit of billionaires and big corporations. And that's why, to this day, the Republican Party and the Heritage Foundation are promoting term limits at the federal level. Okay, Mike, thanks a lot for the call. Mark in Valley, Washington. Hey, Mark, what's on your mind today?
Well, Tom, let's just say that they're successful in building these concentration camps.
Yep.
And they get the Army to successfully round up all these immigrants, and they successfully get a bunch of them shipped out. They're not going to leave those prisons empty. That's for dang sure. They're going to start
not if they're private prisons.
Americans. Exactly. They're going to fill, and that's who they're talking to build all these.
Exactly.
CCC Corp and all them.
Mm-hmm.
So once they, let's say they are successful getting rid of the immigrants, then it's going to be political dissidents and homosexuals and people they don't like.
Yep.
They're going to keep them full.
I suspect you're right, Mark. I mean, there certainly will be an incentive to. I mean, this is why the private prison companies, one of the main reasons that marijuana hasn't been rescheduled and marijuana hasn't been legalized all across the country is that the private prison industry doesn't want it to be done. They are loving the fact that, red states are still throwing people in prison for decades in some cases for smoking pot. So, yeah.
And they're building them in Texas. It's not like Texas doesn't like to lock people up.
You got it. You got it. Mark, thank you for the call. Excellent point. Very well said. We will be right back. It is 20 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. Stay with us. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. Fort Lauderdale, Florida recently got whacked with 25 inches of rainfall in less than 7 hours. Tornadoes are tearing up the South and the Midwest in ways that they haven't seen, frankly, ever before. I mean, there have always been tornadoes, but not like these. 200-mile-an-hour winds, these derecos that are a mile long. We have a serious crisis going on right now. There's also a major El Nino. It's off the coast of Peru right now. It's affecting the West Coast. So we're seeing wild swings from drought to floods to drought to floods in the West Coast. Climate change is here. Climate change is real, and climate change is a crisis. What do we know about it? What do we know about these things? How much worse is it going to get before it might get better? What can we do about it? We had a long conversation with Dr. Michael Mann, Distinguished Professor and Director of the Center for Science, Sustainability, and the Media at the University of Pennsylvania. There's a whole long rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
Gates are wide open, the red carpet's laid for the richest of men with the deals that they've made. No ballot, was cast, no vote was ever shown. But the oligarchs are moving into a house they don't own. They're coming for the power, they're seizing the day, with billions in their pockets and democracy in decay. The people cry for justice, but the tyrants just smile. The oligarchs are moving into the White House in style.
Yeah, here they come. In case you missed it, by the way, 9 states are poised to end coverage for millions of Americans, health care coverage, if Trump cuts Medicaid funding. More than 3 million adults in 9 states. This from Democrats.org, the Democratic Party. More than 3 million adults in 9 states would be at immediate risk of losing their health insurance coverage should the GOP reduce the extra federal Medicaid funding that's enabled states to widen eligibility, according to what used to be called the Kaiser Family Foundation. They now call it KFF, which is all about health care in the United States. And this is extra funding that was provided by the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, that was passed in the first year of Joe Biden's presidency. It does go back to the Affordable Care Act, which of course was passed in 2010. And 40 states and the District of Columbia extended health insurance since 2014, when an estimated 21 million people, If Congress cuts that funding, that expansion of Medicaid is going to be at risk, right? And there are 9 states with trigger laws. Now, trigger laws is something that we all learned about when the Dobbs decision passed, and suddenly states with trigger laws that said if the Supreme Court ever strikes down Roe v. Wade, then suddenly in our state, abortion will be illegal. And we had, 15, 20 states that, boom, just like that, or maybe it was a dozen or so, but whatever, instantly abortion became illegal because the triggers were activated by the Supreme Court striking that down. Well, similarly, if Congress cuts back on the funding, for these, for Medicaid, the expansion of Medicaid, if they undo the Inflation Reduction Act, then across the states with triggers, KFF writes, between 3.1 and 3.7 million people would immediately lose their coverage. 3 other states, that's in Arizona, Arkansas, Indiana, Montana, North Carolina, and Utah. And then 3 other states, Iowa, Idaho, and New Mexico, have laws that require their governments to mitigate this, but that would add, but it's not necessarily automatic. And so their legislatures would have to act, and at least 2 of those states, they probably wouldn't, Iowa and Idaho. And so with those 3 states included, 4.3 million Medicaid expansion enrollees would be at risk of having coverage. And, these lawmakers, these Republican lawmakers in these red states, they love these trigger laws because the trigger laws allow them to cut millions of people off their Medicaid rolls, which is their goal. I mean, the Republicans don't like the idea that government provides health insurance to people. They think that that's something that should only be done by for-profit companies so that they can skim billions of dollars off the top and kick, millions of that back to Republican legislators in the form of bribes and, what the Supreme Court now calls free speech and campaign contributions. So here we are. 4.3 million Americans are on the verge of losing their health insurance. Have you seen a single peep about this in the national media? This, by the way, appears to be the essence of Luigi, the shooter, the healthcare CEO shooter's manifesto. I read it this morning. I will fill you in more detail tomorrow. I want to make sure that I'm actually reading something that's real. But fascinating stuff. And meanwhile, a federal court has gone after the Dreamers. I'll tell you about that on the other side of this break, and I'll pick up your calls. We'll be right back. It's 27 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program, a place where despair is not an option. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Taking back the mainstream media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Right here. I'll be right back with you. Well, time is getting tight, and I need you to take this very seriously. Free Speech TV, for a couple of years, we were doing fund drives that were running 3 and 4 weeks, and it was just kind of really stretching out. And they decided, let's just do nice, tight 2 weeks, and just make it very clear to everybody that it's only 2 weeks that we're going to be talking about this. And get your contribution in if you want to participate in this extraordinary network. If you want to help keep this network going, if you want to be part of this network that has educated so many of us, right? I learned from Free Speech TV. I'm sure you learned from Free Speech TV. I love learning. It's one of the main reasons I do half of what I do. It's life constant. You constantly want to be learning through life, right? And this is one of the great educational pieces. Education is such a vital component. And, Free Speech TV understands that. And when you give to Free Speech TV, by way of education, for example, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, every single one of them autographed by the author. That's kind of cool, right? I like it because I'm the author, but I put a lot of work into those books. And I learned a lot in the course of writing them about guns, about healthcare, about the right to vote, about the Supreme Court, about, oligarchy. So with a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which includes the Free Speech TV cookie, the copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and some other goodies that get thrown in. With a $100 gift, they will plant a tree for you. And as I said, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 books. So in that context, and in honor of the education we all get from Free Speech TV, here's President John Kennedy, May 18th, 1963, talking about that very topic.
But the educated citizen knows how much more there is to know. He knows that knowledge is power, more so today than ever before. He knows that only an educated and informed people will be a free people. That the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all. And that if we can, as Jefferson put it, enlighten the people generally, tyranny and the oppressions of mind and body will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of day. And therefore, the educated citizen has a special obligation to encourage the pursuit of learning, to promote exploration of the unknown, to preserve the freedom of inquiry, to support the advancement of research, and to assist at every level of government the improvement of education for all Americans, from grade school to graduate school. Secondly, the educated citizen has an obligation to serve the public. He may be a precinct worker or president. He may give his talents at the courthouse, the state house, the White House. He may be a civil servant or a senator, a candidate or a campaign worker, a winner or a loser. But he must be a participant and not a spectator.
There you go. President John Kennedy talking about education, and it's so true. And it's so sad to watch right now as we're up to, I believe, 4 or 5 states now that are doing statewide voucher systems to try to destroy their public education systems because Republicans hate teachers' unions and they would really rather people were not all that well informed about civics and science and, hey, let's just go with superstition. I mean, now you've got a couple of states where kids can learn religion during their classroom times. It's just crazy. Anyhow, we work hard to educate people here on Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a source of education. I think one of the better sources of education about certainly what's going on politically and what's going on with our republic and around the world, for that matter. So please call now 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. This network has just done such a spectacular job. The people who are running this network really work hard to keep it going, to keep the more smoothly things operate, the more effortless things seem, the more work went into them. It's one of the things about the media, and I think it's true probably for pretty much any art form as well, whether it's writing or painting or whatever, that people just think, oh yeah, you just open the microphone and talk, or oh yeah, you just set up a camera, and it's just, no. A lot of work goes into putting these programs together, a lot of work. And a lot of work goes into keeping this network running, dealing with the business side of it, dealing with the economics of it. It's one of the reasons why monthly contributions, regular monthly contributions, if you sign up not just to get, a one-time gift or make a one-time donation, but also to donate every single month so that Free Speech TV can budget, so that, the people who are running the network can look at the budgets and say, oh, here's what we can expect. It's so important. It's just so important. So please consider making a one-time contribution and a regular monthly contribution. 877-378-8669, freespeech.org. Thank you so much for your support. Please call now. Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out.
Chestnuts roasting on the BPA-free stove.
Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. The federal court, this was in North Dakota, U.S. District Judge Daniel M. Traynor on Monday granted Kansas, along with 18 other states, a stay. Basically what had happened, here's what happened. The Biden administration, three years ago, I believe it was, maybe 3.5 years ago, ordered that the Affordable Care Act, let me rephrase that, ordered that dreamers, people who are in the country technically illegally, but have been granted a special status, were originally granted a special status by Barack Obama back in the, in the early years of his presidency, and that they be allowed to enroll for, for the subsidies available to people under the Affordable Care Act to buy health insurance. And even though they're not citizens, because the ACA specifically is only for U.S. citizens. And so for the last few years, more or less the last decade, the last 3 years, these dreamers have had access to the Affordable Care Act. Well, 18 Republican-controlled states went to court. The lead plaintiff, of course, was Kansas. In fact, Chris Kobach, who the guy who was gung-ho to throw people off voting rolls back, that we talked about at some length back 4, 5, 6 years ago. Chris Kobach is bragging about this. This federal judge said, no, we're going to cut all the ACA funding for dreamers. They can't enroll under the Affordable Care Act. They have to pay absurdly high prices directly to the health insurance companies themselves if they want health coverage. And he celebrated this ruling. He said, this decision is a big win for the rule of law. Congress never intended that illegal aliens should have received Obamacare benefits. Indeed, 2 laws prohibit them from receiving such benefits. The Biden administration tried to break those laws, but we fought back and defeated the Biden Justice Department. Yeah, so proud of yourself, aren't you, Chris Kobach? Stripping health care coverage from 800,000 people. Jeez. All right, what's on your mind today? Jerry in Tampa, Florida. Hey, Jerry, what's up?
Hi, Tom.
Hey.
Question. If Trump was so sure that he had won the 2020 election, why did he leave? He could have very easily just told the
he knew he didn't.
military.
He knew he lost. Come on, Jerry. He knew he lost. Everybody knew he lost. He was told he lost by everybody around him. He was told he lost by his vice president. He was told he lost by his attorney general. He was told he lost by the governors of every red state that where he lost. I mean, he knew he lost. He's just been lying through his teeth all this time, and he was lying when he talked to Kristen Welker the other night. And it's just obvious. And she should have stopped the interview at that point. When he said that, she should have said, this is just a lie. And if you're going to sit here and lie to my face, I'm not going to continue this interview.
Here's the point, though, that somebody during the election campaign should have brought it up. It wasn't the media. Either President Biden or Vice President Harris should have just asked him, hey, if you were so sure you won the 2020 election, why didn't you just stay there and get the military to keep you there?
Yeah. Well, I think if he thought it would have worked, he would have tried doing that. I mean, he was willing to kill 3 police officers, send 140 others to the hospital, and see 5 civilians die in order to try to stay in office. I mean, let's not forget the price of Trump's treason was paid in part in blood. Not to mention, $40 million damage to the Capitol building, people smearing poop all over the walls, peeing on the carpets and on the desks of Democratic members of Congress, going through top secret papers. I mean, it's just insane. And now he says he wants to pardon these criminals. It's nuts. Jerry, thank you for the call. Dave in Santa Clara. Hey, Dave, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, hi, Tom. I was wondering, every time someone talks to you about the 14th Amendment, you state that the Supreme Court has given them a pass on the insurrection clause. But the decision they came to was about how he wasn't allowed on ballots. Correct.
It doesn't. The Supreme Court did not say that he could serve as president. But to the best of my knowledge, nobody has litigated this. Nobody has challenged. No state. It would require, I believe, a state, and if he is going to become president under the 14th Amendment's Section 3, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it was 2/3 of Congress needs to, quote, remedy the situation, or words to that effect.
Correct. So somebody needs to come out and require Congress to take the vote.
Right. And it would be a good idea for Democrats to propose that legislation, because the Republicans won't. They're not even going to raise the issue. And so if a Democrat proposed the legislation, at the very least, it would stir up a news story about it. I'm with you, Dave. I'm with you. I just don't think it's going to happen. What we're watching in real time is a whole lot of obeying in advance.
That's the fear I have.
Snyder.
That's the problem I have is that it doesn't take. It's a constitutional crisis already. Why don't we just start the rest of the constitutional crisis and require the 2/3 vote in order for him to be able to take office on the 20th?
I completely agree with you. I just don't think it's going to happen, but I completely agree with you. Thank you, Dave. Tom in Media, Pennsylvania. Excuse me. Hey, Tom, what's up?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. This whole thing about illegal immigrants receiving taxpayer-funded health care subsidies, to me, I think is wrong, because these DACA people, they do not have a legal status, and it clearly says in the law you have to be a U.S. citizen.
Right, but they do have a particular legal status. They are exempted by virtue of the legislation. Or maybe it was an executive order. I'd have to go back. I think it was an executive order now that I think about it, Tom. But that executive order that Obama did that created the deferred childhood arrivals program, that executive order gave them a legal status of sorts, and that was the argument that the Biden administration made. It's just that this Republican-appointed judge wasn't going along with it.
Well, I think the Supreme Court is going to side with the clear law, because it was only by executive order that Biden said that these people have to get subsidies.
Right.
And look at the budget, Tom. Already, we're going to have to pay additional subsidies on top of the Obamacare subsidies, because if they expire, more people are going to have it unaffordable. And these are U.S. citizens. And you have the very deceptively named Medicare for All.
This is not a zero-sum game, Tom. If 800,000
yes,
dreamers
it is. They're illegal,
to the
Tom.
Affordable Care Act.
They're not U.S. citizens. How much do you expect us to pay? I mean, this is what I call
I expect us to be a compassionate nation. These are people who were brought here as children. They grew up believing that they were American citizens. They've spoken nothing but English from their childhood. They are Americans in every regard except for this one legal technicality, essentially. If it had been you, Tom, I'm guessing that you would be arguing for something very, very different. If suddenly somebody came along and said, "Tom, guess what? Your parents
pay for their own health care."
Well, yeah.
Let them pay for their own health care. We do, right?
No, we don't. If you're on the Affordable Care Act, you're getting subsidies, and that's.
I'm not. I have employer-sponsored health care, which we've sacrificed decades for.
Okay. Well, and I guarantee you, your employer is getting some form. Well, your employer is getting an explicit subsidy. They're getting a tax exemption. They don't have to pay any income taxes whatsoever on the money that they spend for your insurance. So your employer is being subsidized by me, a taxpayer.
But I'm a legal citizen. Now I've earned this through decades of negotiation. You don't understand that.
These children thought they were legal citizens.
What's that?
And these children thought they were legal citizens. What has happened to your heart, Tom?
It's not my heart. It's we do not want to encourage this. I mean, look at this.
There's no encouragement. You have to have come to the United States before a certain point in time. I believe it was in the 80s. Most all of these people are now in their 20s and 30s. This is not some ongoing program. Yeah, okay.
They're not.
All right,
they
Tom,
can have the health care. They just don't get this.
I'm going to move along. Anthony in St. Augustine, Florida. Hey, Anthony, what's up?
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm fine. What's on your mind?
I just like to talk a little bit about how I feel like that the world order, which was established in 1945, is essentially come to an end because of the fact that, take, for example, the United Nations and, what do you call it, with all these conflicts all over the place and how the UN is somehow just unable to stop it or prevent these things from happening because I just feel like there's just a total breakdown in the world order as we remember it as it was in 1945.
Well, I think you could point to a couple of starting points there, a couple of them in the Middle East, and certainly the Russian invasion of Crimea in 2014. I wouldn't call it a total breakdown, but I don't disagree that we're at a point. Frankly, we're at a point where World War III has never been closer. I don't think any time in my lifetime we've ever been closer to World War III, and I'm very concerned about the decisions that Trump might make when he gets into the White House. And Anthony, I'm sorry to be grumpy. I was so saddened by Tom's comments just a few minutes ago. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. We'll be back. It's 45 minutes past the hour. I'll be right back with you, taking your calls.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And Netanyahu is finally being taken to court. He is testifying in his own trial for corruption and bribery. Welcome back. Patrick in Salt Lake City, Utah. Hey, Patrick, what's up?
Hey, Tom, I hope you're having a great day. Hey, I just wanted to ask you, are you familiar with Federal Reserve Act 13.3?
No, I'm sorry. I mean, if you tell me what it says, I might be, but I have no idea what the number.
Well, no, and it's central to everything you're talking about, but unfortunately you're not familiar with it, and that's what I had thought because I listen to you all the time. Tom, we've given over $71 trillion illegally to the financial system since 2009. Do you think an awareness of how our financial system, which is the largest global racketeering enterprise in the history of the world that has never ended through 3 administrations, has walked with over $71 trillion, would answer a lot of questions about billionaires being in control?
Yeah, you're talking about the money that the Fed poured into financial institutions literally around the world in 2008 during the Bush crash?
Yeah, but it didn't end there, Tom.
Oh, I know.
It didn't end there.
It actually didn't start there.
It never ended.
It didn't start there.
Well, you're right about that. It didn't start
before.
there, but it went on overdrive then.
Yeah. So you're saying that under this 13-something rule under the feds that this is not legal? Is that your argument?
Of course, it's right, because it was created out of the Great Depression based on the GSEs to create the Reinvestment Act to be able to ultimately foster what ultimately became Keynesian economics and the New Deal through the Reinvestment Corporation.
I thought the Fed was created in 1913.
Of course it was, but what we dealt with
that was not the Great Depression
through Carter.
That was a decade and a half before the Great Depression.
Tom, listen to me. I'm aware of that. I'm telling you that what the GSEs that were created after the Great Depression, because of what took place during the Great Depression, created precedents and statutes that defined that you cannot provide emergency initiative. Excuse me. What is the terminology? It's like the emergency stimulus based on exigent circumstances that would be pile drived into an illegal racketeering outfit. That's what we did after 2009. First and foremost. It never ended.
I don't fully disagree with you, Patrick, that our banking system is an illegal is a racketeering operation.
We should talk about
whether it's illegal or not.
There's a lot of information that answers all the questions. It is illegal, literally.
All right. Well, I appreciate your certainty, Patrick. Thanks for the call. Marty in Worth, Illinois. Hey, Marty, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, thanks for taking my call. No, I just wanted to make the point that I believe that health care for all of us is health care for all of us. If there's one thing I learned from the COVID-19 pandemic is that a virus doesn't care whether you're a citizen or not.
Yeah, I think it's a human right.
It is a human right, and everybody here should be entitled to access our healthcare system if they need to, regardless of what part of the country, how long you've been here. It doesn't matter. We're all living here, and when the bird flu pandemic hits, I want everybody, if there is a vaccine, a safe and effective vaccine, I want us all to have access to it. I want that infrastructure to be in place. And I don't care if my tax dollars pays for mine or whether my neighbor came from this country, came from somewhere else. That's still my neighbor.
Well, it's the public health aspect. I mean, you don't want the person, even, low-wage jobs. You don't want the person who's cooking your food in the restaurant or handing the plate to you who just sneezed on it because they don't have health insurance and they can't get treated. You don't want that kind of a situation happening. Yeah, I agree with you, Marty. It's both a public health issue and a basic humanity issue. And you said it very well. Thank you so much. It's 49 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us.
From the fields to the factories, the work never ends. But in the boardrooms, they don't call us friends. They sit high on the thrones, looking down on the rest, while we break our backs, trying to do our best. We're not serfs in a kingdom, just waiting for a nod. We're the heart of this country, we won't be robbed. You see, they like it when power flows from the top, where the bosses get rich and the workers just stop. But there's something they fear, something they hide. It's the power of the people standing side by side. Unions are democracy in the workplace.
Unions of democracy in the workplace. Welcome back 10 minutes before the hour. David in San Francisco. Hey, David, what's up?
Hey, hi, Tom. The word unalienable, like in the Declaration of Independence, we are born with these rights, and unalienable means they can't be sold away, they can't be contracted away, they can't be given away, whether by us or anyone else.
Right.
You're born with unalienable rights, and they can't be negotiated away.
Including the right to life. And how does health care not confer the right to life?
Right. And then when somebody actually has the gall to cut a budget to, out here, I think it was Sutter Healthcare decided to cut down to 7, when they do the blood, with your liver, they cut it down to 7 machines for an entire county. These ideas that a budget out of the U.S. Congress could actually cut the health care for America, that's not equal protection. Yeah. That's not equal justice. Yeah. It's just a skinflint, and chances are they're a bigot, too. So the idea, and I'm, maybe you got some lawyers listening. When you think about a real conservative doesn't want their taxes wasted on some weird notion. They want some receipts to show that everything was up to snuff and everybody got paid fairly. So when all of a sudden you have some S&M freaks all of a sudden getting their kicks on the taxpayer's dime, and they're coming up with bad law and bad interpretation of law so that they can poison people and punish people and humiliate people.
And strip health care from people.
Right. And to do that on the taxpayer dime. Yeah. So in order to protect ourselves, we have to create lawyers to fight our property being stolen from us. And which, as is known, single-payer health care, what is it, 0.5% is administrative cost? Yeah. And these big HMOs are up to 36% are administrative cost. Those old boys are just stealing.
Yeah, they're stealing. Well, they're certainly, they're also having to set aside money for profit. And of course, all those people who sit around and say, no, you can't have this payment, they have to get paid also. So there's a cost to that as well, which is, kind of insane. Yeah, excellent point, David. Thank you. Thank you for the call. Scott in Mill City, Oregon. Hey, Scott, what's up? Where's Mill City?
Well, actually, I'm outside of Portland, so I don't know where Mill City is.
Okay.
By Sherwood. I'm over Tigard, Sherwood, actually.
Okay, Sherwood. Okay, I'll fix that. So what's on your mind?
Well, it just seems to me that, and I talked to you earlier, that there's a substantial conflict of interest across the board that we're seeing no matter what, whether it's oligarchy, whether it's individual senators or House members able to invest in individual companies. And just one simple idea, this isn't, going to fix everything, but maybe there's something more in the substrate to think about, is I don't invest in individual stocks. I just buy the entire index, right. Of the stock market. Yep. So why would this, basically the U.S. stock market, why wouldn't something like that be important for our legislators to agree to in some kind of conflict of interest resolution? I don't know much more.
I don't understand your point. I'm sorry, I'm missing something here. The stock market has to do with what?
Well, it's more of a conflict of interest. If I'm a legislator and I'm buying just one company, right? It just seems to me that it's a conflict of interest, and maybe.
I'm with you. I think legislators should either be required to put their assets in a blind trust, or if not, only buy index funds like you're doing. I agree with you, if that's your point.
Yeah, that's just the fundamental point, and it seems to me is would something like that, in your experience, be possible?
Legislation to that effect has been proposed on multiple occasions. It's by Democrats, and to the best of my knowledge, has never passed. I would add, by the way, that where I thought you were going with this is, why doesn't like Social Security invest in the stock market in an index fund sort of thing? No. After the Great Depression, after the crash in '29, it took almost 30 years for the stock market to recover. Inflation adjusted back to where it was.
Absolutely not. Yeah. I think the principles of like Jack Bogle, who created the index fund, who believed in just the fundamental nature of investing in these businesses and not speculation. Is a principle that I think applies to these people.
I get it. Scott, I want to try and get one call in here before the end of the hour. Joshua in Pittsburgh, I have a little less than a minute, Joshua. You have a quick one?
So just a quick statement. I work in the film industry here in Pittsburgh, and, I just want to let people know that anytime you see a commercial on TV from a healthcare company, it's generally $200,000 plus budget. Wow. So my main question was, I just wanted to ask you, Shapiro and Fetterman are denouncing everybody kind of feeling good about the whole Luigi thing, and I don't I don't think violence is the answer, but 87% of Americans agree with it. I mean, wouldn't it be a better thing to say?
I think what we're seeing right now, Joshua, and I mentioned this last night when I was on Joy Reid's show, is back in the 20s, the big industry that was ripping people off and that caused the Great Depression were the banks. And who were the heroes in the 20s and 30s? Bonnie and Clyde, John Dillinger, the bank robbers. Today, the major industry that's ripping us all off is the health insurance industry. And who are the folk heroes, the Robin Hoods? It's Luigi. So I don't think this is rocket science. I think it's quite predictable as part of human nature.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Here's a thought-provoking bumper sticker. The system is fixed. We must break it. This thought came into vivid focus recently when a news report by ProPublica revealed that a nest of preening multi-billionaires.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com. Time is getting tight, and I need you to take this very seriously. We, Free Speech TV, for a couple of years, we were doing fund drives that were running 3 and 4 weeks, and it was just kind of really stretching out. And they decided, let's just do nice, tight 2 weeks and just make it very clear to everybody that it's only 2 weeks that we're going to be talking about this. And get your contribution in if you want to participate in this extraordinary network. If you want to help keep this network going, if you want to be part of this network that has educated so many of us, right? I learned from Free Speech TV. I'm sure you learned from Free Speech TV. I love learning. It's one of the main reasons I do half of what I do. It's life constant. You constantly want to be learning through life, right? And this is one of the great educational pieces. Education is such a vital component. And, Free Speech TV understands that. And when you give to Free Speech TV, by way of education, for example, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, every single one of them autographed by the author. That's kind of cool, right? I like it because I'm the author, but I put a lot of work into those books. And I learned a lot in the course of writing them about guns, about healthcare, about the right to vote, about the Supreme Court, about, oligarchy. So with a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which includes the Free Speech TV cookie, the copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and some other goodies that get thrown in. With a $100 gift, they will plant a tree for you. And as I said, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 books. So in that context, and in honor of the education we all get from Free Speech TV, here's President John Kennedy, May 18th, 1963, talking about that very topic.
But the educated citizen knows how much more there is to know. He knows that knowledge is power, more so today than ever before. He knows that only an educated and informed people will be a free people. That the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all. And that if we can, as Jefferson put it, enlighten the people generally, tyranny and the oppressions of mind and body will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of day. And therefore, the educated citizen has a special obligation to encourage the pursuit of learning, to promote exploration of the unknown, to preserve the freedom of inquiry, to support the advancement of research, and to assist at every level of government the improvement of education for all Americans, from grade school to graduate school. Secondly, the educated citizen has an obligation to serve the public. He may be a precinct worker or president. He may give his talents at the courthouse, the state house, the White House. He may be a civil servant or a senator, a candidate or a campaign worker, a winner or a loser. But he must be a participant and not a spectator.
There you go. President John Kennedy talking about education, and it's so true. And it's so sad to watch right now as we're up to, I believe, 4 or 5 states now that are doing statewide voucher systems to try to destroy their public education systems because Republicans hate teachers' unions and you know, they would really rather people were not all that well informed about civics and science and, you know, hey, let's just go with superstition. I mean, now you've got a couple of states where kids can learn religion during their classroom times. It's just crazy. Anyhow, we work hard to educate people here on Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a source of education. I think one of the better sources of education about certainly what's going on politically and what's going on, you know, with our republic and around the world, for that matter. So please call now 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. This network has just done such a spectacular job. The people who are running this network really work hard to keep it going, to keep, you know, the more smoothly things operate, the more effortless things seem, the more work went into them. It's one of the things about the media, and I think it's true probably for pretty much any art form as well. You know, whether it's writing or painting or whatever, that people just think, oh yeah, you know, you just open the microphone and talk, or oh yeah, you just set up a camera, and it's just no. A lot of work goes into putting these programs together. A lot of work. And a lot of work goes into keeping this network running, dealing with the business side of it, dealing with the economics of it. It's one of the reasons why monthly contributions, regular monthly contributions, if you sign up not just to get, you know, a one-time gift or make a one-time donation, but also to donate every single month so that Free Speech TV can budget, so that, you know, the people who are running the network can look at the budgets and say, oh, here's what we can expect. It's so important. It's just so important. So please consider making a one-time contribution and a regular monthly contribution. 877-378-8669. Free Speech. Thank you so much.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the second hour of our program. This is a crazy story. This now it's being reported by The Week, and The Week says that they can't confirm it. So let me throw that caveat out there, but I've seen it widely reported elsewhere. I don't know if The Week is the single source for all these things or not. But apparently there's and for that reason, I'm not going to name the company because again, I can't completely back this up. But if it is true, and it may be a company in India, I believe, but this is just crazy. It's a salon home service startup, and the company's human resources department sent out a survey asking if people were stressed out because of their workload. And a number of people, as many as 100 people, admitted to being stressed. And so then the company sent out a letter to them, or an email, and this is the email that The Week published. Recently, we conducted a survey to understand your feelings about stress at work. Many of you shared your concerns, which we deeply value and respect. As a company committed to fostering a healthy and supportive work environment, we have carefully considered the feedback. To ensure that no one remains stressed at work, we've made the difficult decision to part ways with employees who indicated significant stress. This decision is effective immediately, and impacted employees will receive further emails separately. Thank you for your contributions. Right. I'm an employer. I've been an employer for 50 years or longer. I can't imagine doing something like this. I mean, maybe it's a spoof, but like I said, I keep seeing it reported. If it is, it's gone totally viral. But in a way, this kind of is an example of the sociopathy that you see across corporations. Again, a point Joy Reid was kind enough to have me on her program last night on MSNBC, and I made the point that corporations, if they were human, like the Supreme Court says they are, if they were actually people, would be considered sociopaths. They do not have empathy. They don't have consideration. They don't have a soul. They don't die, and they really don't care about anything except profits. They have a singular focus, which is profit, and that is a form of sociopathy. So what can you say, or psychopathy? Rupert Murdoch, meanwhile, speaking of sociopaths, Rupert Murdoch's 3 adult children will retain control over their father's media empire upon his death, according to a Nevada court. Remember this? Rupert has 3 kids, Prudence, James, and Elizabeth. Actually 4. Lachlan, James, Elizabeth, and Prudence. 2 girls, 2 boys. And out of the 4 of them, apparently Lachlan is the only one who's like a Nazi, a hardcore right-winger, who agrees with the kind of programming that they have on Fox News. James actually left the company a couple of years ago because he was so upset by the way that they lie and distort the news and basically make people hate each other. I mean, that's the business model of Fox News. It's been the business model of Rupert Murdoch ever since he took over the newspapers in Australia from his father, Sir Keith Murdoch, who was a famous racist. And the basic business model was make people hate each other and make money on it. And Murdoch is doing very well, thank you very much. But so what happened was Murdoch decided, he's 93 years old, he knows he's not going to live forever. He wanted to make sure and that his son Lachlan, the right-winger, inherited the company essentially, but he has three other children. And his will says that the assets get divided evenly. So and perhaps the law. I don't know how these things work, but Rupert felt that he had to go to court, and so he sued in Nevada, where he thought he would have a friendly venue, to try to change the terms of this thing so that Lachlan could basically take over the company when Rupert dies. And the court said nope. A 96-page opinion, according to the New York Times, called the lawsuit a, quote, carefully crafted charade to permanently cement Lachlan Murdoch's executive roles inside the empire, regardless of the impact such control would have over the companies or the beneficiaries of the family trust. So basically, what Rupert has done is put a lot of his assets into the family trust, including his stock in this company, and the trust has this rule that says everybody has an equal share, equal vote in it, and Murdoch was trying to break that trust or break that rule. Now, whether this means that when he dies, I mean, keep in mind, Fox's revenue for this fiscal year, so far, which ended this last summer. They're now in fiscal year 2025. So their revenue for the 12 months from June to June of 2023 and 2024 was nearly $14 billion. You can make a hell of a lot of money making people hate each other. I mean, just ask Sean Hannity. I mean, just ask Mr. Jones, right? I mean, it's just this is entirely. But anyway, we'll see where this shakes out. There are, in fact, I believe it was in the Deal Book this morning, the newsletter from the New York Times, Andrew Ross Sorkin's, where he was saying that it probably won't matter, that the Fox News business model makes so much money that when Lachlan takes over, or in all probability, the other siblings will allow him to take over. I don't know. But and he could live for another decade or longer, so who knows? We'll see where this goes. We'll see how it shakes out, as they say. I also wanted to share with you an absolutely fascinating look into the background of the guy who just took over Syria. I'm getting my information here from Mehdi Hassan's website, Zeteo.com, Z-E-T-E-O, or Zeteo.com, and by Team Zeteo. And, this extremist group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, just took over Syria. And they just put Mohammed al-Bashir as the acting prime minister. So, as Bashir al-Assad had to flee the country. And running the show is a guy named Abu Muhammad al-Jalani, who is the leader of HTS, of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. So who is this guy, Jalani? And by the way, he started introducing himself to the public under his actual real name. His Jalani name is an assumed name. His real name, when he was born in Saudi Arabia in 1982, he was named Ahmed al-Shara. And his parents were from Syria. They had been kicked out of Syria, out of the Golan Heights, which at the time was part of Syria, when Israel seized that property in 1967 in the Six-Day War. And so they moved to Saudi Arabia. And when he was a teenager, he fell in love with a girl from the Alawite community. He's Sunni, she's Shia. She was considered an infidel. Neither of their families would allow these two to continue dating. And the folks over at Zeteo say it was a relationship that helped lead Jalani to develop his sectarian view of society. Now, he was originally radicalized by the Second Intifada in Palestine in 2000. Louise and I were there when that happened. In fact, we were driving through Nablus, and some kids came out and started throwing stones at our car. And 2 days later, my parents called us. We were in Jerusalem, and that in Nablus, the kids throwing stones on cars made the front cover of Time magazine. And my parents were like, "Are you guys okay?" So it's just one of those weird coincidences. Being in. Anyhow, Jalani made a name for himself in 2003. He joined al-Qaeda in Iraq and fought against Americans and killed American soldiers, or so the story goes. He was captured in 2006 by U.S. forces. He spent 5 years in prison at Camp Bucca, which is where basically they created ISIS and the Islamic State of Iraq, originally ISI and then later became ISIS. He came out of prison with a 50-page manifesto about how to run an Arab country. In 2013, he basically split with Baghdadi, the guy that Joe Biden killed, and declared the merger of al-Nusra with ISI void. That spun off ISIS, and he continued. He left. In 2013, he led a massacre where families in their entirety were executed. This guy's a cold-blooded killer. In Syria's Alawite village, at least 190 civilians were murdered. He also, and the Trump administration had circulated a $10 million wanted poster for this guy, who's now running Syria, Jalani. And now reports say that America is thinking of dropping that $10 million reward, as is the United Kingdom. In 2016, he cut ties with al-Qaeda and rebranded his group to JFS, and then later he rebranded it to HTS in 2017. That's the group it is now. And he set out, and he took over a city in 2017. It was a city called Idlib in Syria. He took over the city, 7 years ago. And he set out to prove that he could actually run something. And they developed Idlib. They developed the city. They built shopping malls, luxury shopping malls, education centers, schools, rebuilt the electric supply. He was involved in aid efforts after the 2023 earthquakes in that region. And, but on the other hand, he also, when he ran Idlib, if you dissented from his rule, you ended up in prison and being tortured or murdered. So again, cold-blooded killer. So the big question, and literally nobody knows the answer to, is has he really moderated? Or is he just doing a song and dance for the West right now, and we're going to see it get worse and worse and worse, like we're seeing under the Taliban in Afghanistan, for example? And nobody knows. This is the big question. So what are your thoughts on this and everything else? Luigi is in prison now, is being held. He's been formally charged with murder as well. And that saga continues. So stay tuned. I'll pick up your calls right after this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's the place where smart people get their news, the Thom Hartmann Program. I'll be back with your calls right after this. And welcome back. Lee in Sepulveda, California. Hey, Lee, what's up?
What's up is some time ago, somebody called about this thing called stun that I didn't know anything about.
Yeah, guy yesterday.
I looked it up. Yeah, I looked it up, and I've been following it ever since. It was like months ago. Mm-hmm. And what they're saying and what I can gather from what they're up to is they have a plan to stop Trump before January. It's aimed for the 24th eve that we will have a president if we do get in contact with him. So I'm begging you to look them up. And your screener said you looked up stun but couldn't find it on the internet. It's at P as in Paul, ASOIR.com. And I'm saying, from my perspective, this is our only chance to get our country. Everything that you're talking about.
PSOIR.com, and it came up, no, there is no such site.
PASOIR?
Okay, let me put an A in there and see what comes up. It still says there's no such website.
P as in Paul, ASOIR?
That's correct, .com. Yeah. Is it .org?
I was just on it. I don't know, not .org, .com.
Huh. Well, and when I put it into Google, PASOIR, it says it's the English translation of La Pessoa.
Oh my God.
PASOIR. Now this is interesting. I just got to it. Oh, I see. The reason my browser wouldn't go there is because they don't have a security certificate. So this is an unsecure website. A lot of browsers will refuse to go to it. It's shift the unfit narrative. Yeah. I get it. Yeah, I've already read this. I've seen this before. It's, I think it's a nice fantasy, frankly. But we'll see. Let me. I'm scrolling down through it right now. It's one of these long things. In fact, 2 people have emailed this to me as well over the last week or 2.
Okay, because they have a plan for you, for Amy, for both the Bidens, for both Harris and them.
I get it, and okay. I can't tell you, Lee, right? Yeah, Lee. I can't tell you how many people have come up with plans for me. I mean, if only Thom Hartmann would do this, it'll save the republic. Yeah. That happens at least once a month. I get, these long, people literally send me letters to that effect. I mean, I have solved the problem. If you just do what I tell you, and if Amy Goodman would only do this, I'm sorry. I think it's a fantasy.
Okay, but what I'm getting out of them is that everything that you say, so they must be paying close attention to you. Everything that you're saying is like, we need to build America. We need, a change begins with you. All the things that you're saying, they are into. So that's where
I am, and obviously I am too. But this idea that we're going to be able to just randomly invoke the Constitution or quote Thomas Paine and and prevent Donald Trump from becoming president, it just is not going to happen. I'm all in favor of it, but it is not going to happen, Lee. It's not me you got to convince. It's Chuck Schumer.
What if they can make it happen?
Well, I'm telling you, it's Chuck Schumer you got to convince, not me. Lee, thanks for the call. It's 22 minutes past the hour. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. It's no coincidence that the time in Europe when the church ran the continent, from around the 5th century to around the 15th or 16th century, that 1,000-year period is referred to as the Dark Ages. This is what happens when religion controls politics, when religion controls the state, the nation, and every nation of Europe was controlled essentially by the Catholic Church during that period of time. It got busted up with the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century. This was what the founders of this country very much knew about. George Washington refused to declare himself a Christian. Thomas Paine wrote an entire book embracing atheism. Ben Franklin fled Massachusetts as a teenager to escape the religious threats. And Thomas Jefferson went off on it regularly. There's a whole piece about how the Republicans are trying to impose a new dark age on America. It's all laid out, all the quotes and all the links over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
I'm dreaming of a bright Christmas where every culture shares delight.
Welcome back. 23 minutes past the hour, and picking up your calls here, Tyrone in Harlem, New York. Hey, Tyrone, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. I thoroughly enjoyed you and Joanne Reed last night.
Thank you. Isn't she great? She does such a great show.
Yeah, it looked like she got a real kick out of your rant, man, when you was talking about the racism in the healthcare system.
That's what amazes me, Tyrone. I didn't know this until I did the research for the book, but this was something that was like, it was in the front pages of the New York Times from the 1890s until the 1940s. I mean, this scientific racism idea that blacks were genetically inferior and therefore we had to cut off the health care and they'd all die out, and I mean, this was really subscribed to. And the main reason why we don't have government-controlled health care in the United States, is because, up until the 1960s, basically, government provided, when we got Medicare. The main reason we didn't have it was because up until the 1960s, up until 1964, it was perfectly legal for private corporations to discriminate against people based on race. And the private health insurance companies did that. And so that's why the conservatives did not want government to do that, because it would have been illegal for government to discriminate. In fact, Medicare was arguably the most successful integration program in the history of the United States. In 1 year, the Medicare got put into place. Hospitals could only qualify for it if they proved that they were no longer segregated. And Martin Luther King was working with the people who wrote the Medicare law, and for a year they were traveling around the country, going to hospitals, showing up as black people, and getting kicked out and getting hospitals shut down.
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
It's an amazing story, and nobody knows this. Anyhow, back to you, Tyrone. I'm sorry.
Wow. And you said, listen, I enjoy it. And when you said something that stuck in my, just now, you said conservative.
Yeah.
I understand.
Back then.
Absolutely. And this is where I'm at with this conservative BS, that you can be a conservative, independent, Democrat, or Republican. Their main goal is to conserve their way of life.
Yep.
And their way of life may not coincide with black folks. Let's say it that way.
Yep.
And being that they have this idea to uphold this conservative ideology, it shifts. It shifts on who is going to benefit. Yep. My fear is that this big money interest, that shifts also, where people want to get, like I can't offer you $1 million to turn your whole life around and say, well, listen, I love Donald Trump. I want to be in his cult and all that. It's not going to work on you, because you already set in your mindset of how things is operating. But these people that are in the Democratic, some of them that are in the Democratic Party, they're giving up themselves.
Yeah, I know.
We're stuck.
I know. We need fighters. We need fighters. Tyrone, I'm sorry I'm out of time here, but it's always nice to hear from you. Thank you. And thanks for your kind words. Good talking to you. 27 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
This is the place where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say, no, give me a break. Come on. Well, time is getting tight, and I need you to take this very seriously. We, Free Speech TV, for a couple of years, we were doing fund drives that were running 3 and 4 weeks, and it was just kind of really stretching out. And they decided, let's just do nice, tight 2 weeks and just make it very clear to everybody that it's only 2 weeks that we're going to be talking about this. And get your contribution in if you want to participate in this extraordinary network, if you want to help keep this network going, if you want to be part of this network that has educated so many of us. Right? I learned from Free Speech TV. I'm sure you learned from Free Speech TV. I love learning. It's one of the main reasons I do half of what I do. It's life constant. You constantly want to be learning through life, right? And this is one of the great educational pieces. Education is such a vital component, and Free Speech TV understands that. And when you give to Free Speech TV, by way of education, for example, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, every single one of them autographed by the author. That's kind of cool, right? I like it because I'm the author, but I put a lot of work into those books. And I learned a lot in the course of writing them about guns, about health care, about the right to vote, about the Supreme Court, about, oligarchy. So, with a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which includes the Free Speech TV cookie, the copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and some other goodies that get thrown in. With a $100 gift, they will plant a tree for you. And as I said, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 books. So in that context, and in honor of the education we all get from Free Speech TV, here's President John Kennedy, May 18th, 1963, talking about that very topic.
But the educated citizen knows how much more there is to know. He knows that knowledge is power, more so today than ever before. He knows that only an educated and informed people will be a free people. That the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all. And that if we can, as Jefferson put it, enlighten the people generally, tyranny and the oppressions of mind and body will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of day. And therefore the educated citizen has a special obligation to encourage the pursuit of learning, to promote exploration of the unknown, to preserve the freedom of inquiry, to support the advancement of research, and to assist at every level of government the improvement of education for all Americans, from grade school to graduate school. Secondly, the educated citizen has an obligation to serve the public. He may be a precinct worker or president. He may give his talents at the courthouse, the state house, the White House. He may be a civil servant or a senator, a candidate or a campaign worker, a winner or a loser. But he must be a participant and not a spectator.
There you go. President John Kennedy talking about education, and it's so true. And it's so sad to watch right now as we're up to, I believe, 4 or 5 states now that are doing statewide voucher systems to try to destroy their public education systems because Republicans hate teachers' unions and you know, they would really rather people were not all that well informed about civics and science and, you know, hey, let's just go with superstition. I mean, now you've got a couple of states where kids can learn religion during their classroom times. It's just crazy. Anyhow, we work hard to educate people here on Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a source of education. I think one of the better sources of education about certainly what's going on politically and what's going on, you know, with our republic and around the world, for that matter. So please call now 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. This network has just done such a spectacular job. The people who are running this network really work hard to keep it going, to keep, you know, the more smoothly things operate, the more effortless things seem, the more work went into them. It's one of the things about the media, and I think it's true probably for pretty much any art form as well. You know, whether it's writing or painting or whatever, that people just think, oh yeah, you know, you just open the microphone and talk, or oh yeah, you just set up a camera, and it's just no. A lot of work goes into putting these programs together. A lot of work. And a lot of work goes into keeping this network running, dealing with the business side of it, dealing with the economics of it. It's one of the reasons why monthly contributions, regular monthly contributions, if you sign up not just to get, you know, a one-time gift or make a one-time donation, but also to donate every single month so that Free Speech TV can budget, so that, you know, the people who are running the network can look at the budgets and say, oh, here's what we can expect. It's so important. It's just so important. So please consider making a one-time contribution and a regular monthly contribution. 877-378-8669, freespeech.org. Thank you so much for your support. Please call now. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. Our podcast, The Hartmann Report, is absolutely free and available wherever fine podcasts are available. And the entire 3-hour podcast is available over at thomhartmann.com. So back in the 1980s, Louise and I lived in Germany for a year, and one of the stories that I remember hearing from some of the older people who were there in Stadtsteinach, who had been alive during the Hitler era, was that the radio and television stations, well, they didn't have television stations, but the radio stations and the newspapers back then had, on radio, it was a particular time of the day, and in newspapers, a particular part of the paper, where people could write in or people could call in and denounce their neighbors for being gay or for being disloyal or for being secretly Jewish, and that would then cause neighbors to all go after them because it was a matter of public record. Now, anything states do in the United States is a matter of public record. The Attorney General of Missouri, Andrew Bailey, has just put up a form on the government's website, the Transgender Center Concerns form, where you can report your neighbors for dressing up as women. This is nuts. There's a whole long rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
They used to shop from every stage. Let's rewrite the founding page. Welcome
back. 35 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Nicole in Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, Nicole, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Thanks again for taking my call. I appreciate your honesty and humanity. What I would like to do is play a little fantasy politics, if you will.
Okay.
Like I said, I've been hearing this real big campaign to pardon Trump, who, like I said, who's done everything beautifully. And everybody clutching their pearls behind Joe Biden.
Wait a minute, you're talking about a campaign to get Joe Biden to pardon Trump?
Yes, I just heard this morning Jim Clyburn here in South Carolina is pushing this agenda.
Really?
You know what? I was so lit, it actually made me call a show, which I've never done in my life.
I'm shocked.
So, yes, there's a real campaign. I mean, we know what it is. So this is my fantasy politics theory. So since Joe Biden pardoned his son, which we all knew he was going to do, I really wish that he had just been honest and said, look, they railroaded my son. I'm going to let them do what they do, and we're going to see what happens. Okay.
Well, he shouldn't have kept the special prosecutor to begin with. You know, that should have been the end of that. I'm with you.
That's getting close. That's getting close to my fantasy politics theory. So what he should do, in my opinion, is go ahead and step down. Go spend time with Hunter. Go help Hunter, or y'all go, walk off into the sunset. You did all you could do. I'm sick of watching you go around the world talking and looking like you look. Okay, stop. Just step down. Give the presidency over to Kamala Harris. Let her bring in her vice president, and then let's take a pause, because I just don't feel in my heart that this election is settled business for so many reasons. And if it is, and that's fine, but we cannot have the fraudster in chief who had 4 years to plot this takeover, which that's what it feels like. Mm-hmm. This takeover regarding our election systems, regarding the interference from the oligarchs, the addicts, the greedies. It's too much. And like I said, things are moving too fast. Yeah. Joe Biden, step down. Yeah. Let Kamala Harris take over. And that thing that you were saying about stopping this, let's go roll. Yeah. I'm saying, Cambo.
Well, you're assuming, Nicole, that Kamala Harris would be any more aggressive than Joe Biden, and I'm not sure that's a safe assumption.
I'm not assuming that. What I'm saying is, let's get to work. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's just see. Step down. You kind of embarrassed us by turning right around. I mean, I wish at the very least he would have waited to the last day, like Trump did when he pardoned all those criminals.
Yep.
He waited to the last few hours of his presidency, 48, 72 hours, to allow all those criminals to pay for those pardons. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is we have to get this rogue mentality. And I don't understand why Kamala Harris, none of the Republicans are going this route. I mean, like I said, Claiborne this morning is talking about Biden should pardon Trump.
Yeah, I don't know where he's coming from. I mean, what possible reason does he have for suggesting?
For the good of the country.
What does that mean?
That's my point. Biden, step down. That's what I'm pushing. I'm over
I say Claiborne stepped down. If that's where his head's at. I mean, come on.
Step down. Yeah. Get out the way. Just do it and let's see what happens.
You know what's amazing, Nicole? I don't know if you were listening earlier, but I made this point earlier on in the program that back in 2009 on this show, I just went nuts because the night that Obama, January 20th, 2009, that Michelle and Barack Obama were dancing at the 7 different venues in D.C. They came and danced at the train station, which is where I was, and James Taylor was playing music. And I was there with Ellen Ratner and with Louise. And while that was going on, the leadership of the Republican Party, Paul Ryan at the time, and Mitch McConnell, and Ted Cruz, and a bunch of these guys. I forget all the names, but I once had them memorized. Got together in the Caucus Room restaurant, which was on the backside of the building we lived in, and the apartment building that we lived in. And they got together and they decided among themselves that the Republican Party for the next 4 years would not ever give Barack Obama even one single vote, even on things they agreed with. They were just not going to go along with anything. They were going to present a united front, and that united front, in their opinion, would enable them to win elections going forward. And in fact, it did. And I'm saying, you know, although Obama did get reelected, still, you know, I think that's just, you know, what a gifted orator he was, as much as anything else, and the sense of the country at the time. But I'm just astonished that Democrats are coming out here saying, you know, and in fact, Ro Khanna said this on my show a couple of days ago. Yeah, I'll work with these guys. Screw them.
Why?
To hell with them.
It's so upsetting. It's so upsetting, Tom.
Yeah.
I just don't understand what to do. This was my first intersection into even communicating this in real time with outsiders, because I'm so isolated because of what's happening to our country.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do other than that. Please beg Joe Biden to step down, go off into the sunset. Whether Kamala does anything,
I have begged Joe Biden a lot of times for a lot of things, Nicole. I don't have any, you know, I can't call him up any more than anybody. I mean, you know, I can call the White House comment line, and in fact, I have on some occasions. But you know, I wish I had that power, but I don't. Well, actually, I'm not even sure I wish I had that
How
power.
can we do it? Do we need a GoFundMe page? Can we start a petition? Joe Biden got to go.
Yeah.
We still have days left.
You know, I think,
Court, not to cut you off, the Supreme Court says the president has immunity.
Yeah, I
so
get it.
Kamala Harris needs to get in that position, tell Biden, thank you for all you've done, bye, and then go rogue.
Yeah.
Let's get an election
Well, what I would like
commission.
to see, and we had a caller earlier about this, and I kind of dismissed it because I just know it's not going to happen. But what I would like to see in my, you know, you're talking about your fantasy politics, this is my fantasy politics. When the Supreme Court said that Maine and Nebraska, and there was a third state, Colorado. It wasn't Nebraska, though. It was Maine and Colorado, and there was a third state, had taken Trump off the ballot, you know, because he had led an insurrection consistent with the 14th Amendment. All three of these states had ruled that, and their Supreme Courts had ruled that. And when the U.S. Supreme Court said, no, you can't take him off the ballot, they did not say he has to be allowed to become president. And, you know, the 14th Amendment does not say that you have to allow him to participate in an election. It says he's prohibited from serving, from being president. So in my opinion, he is still prohibited until 2/3 of Congress votes to remedy the situation. And that's what I would like Joe Biden to be advocating right now. I mean, if
and isn't it, and also, Tom, isn't it against the law to give aid and comfort to insurrectionists?
Yes, and that's the 14th Amendment, among others. Yes, absolutely.
Nicole, I mean, I don't understand how somebody that cannot legally vote be president.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, if felons can vote in New York State, although he has changed his residence to Florida, and felons can't vote in Florida, so there you go. Nicole, I got to run, but thank you for the call. It's great to hear from you. Thank you very much. Lewis in Asheville, North Carolina. Hey, Lewis, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good afternoon. I am calling to lighten up some things. I have a funny joke for you.
Okay.
Here it goes. It's a seasonal joke. What did one snowman say to the other?
Don't know.
Does it smell like carrots to you?
Cute. Okay,
cute. Yeah. All right. Hey, Tom, we went through a crazy event here in Asheville.
Yeah.
That Hurricane Helene. And thank you for everything everybody's done in the country to help us.
Are you getting better? You're recovering? I have some friends in Asheville. I'm going to be talking to them on Saturday. Lewis, thank you. Yeah, thanks for the report, and thanks for the joke. It's nice to hear from you. Happy holidays.
Okay, you can use it.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, thank you. 45 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay with me.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the place where despair is not an option. I'll be picking up your calls in just a second. And welcome back. David in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hey, David, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I want to jump into the healthcare thing. I'm going to raise something that we talked about many years ago. First of all, I think that we've gone out of the realm of the healthcare being as far as promoting the general welfare into the national defense realm. For the simple reason, the CRISPR technology and the whole thing, that the person that was arguing earlier that the dreamers shouldn't get health care, and it's like, look, the diseases don't care. And the whole thing, one of the other things that we're missing that's not in discussion is
well, he was saying we shouldn't subsidize their health care. Not that they shouldn't get it, but keep going, David.
Okay, this is beyond subsidizing.
I get it.
The whole thing with the disease control. We need to have respiratory infectious disease hospitals specialized in having a negative air pressure specifically designed to take care of COVID, influenza,
and bird
RSV,
flu,
whooping cough, the whole spectrum. Now, my expertise. I was a medic. I was a hospital corpsman, and I did some NBC combined joint exercises, warfare exercises. I also happened to have been in the medical field before the HMO PPO. I worked at Kaiser in California, in Oakland, and I went through that whole transition when they put the PPOs and all that in, and watched the personnel on the wards all of a sudden go from enough people to virtually nobody.
Right.
And, this whole thing, this has gone out of the realm of being in something that can be addressed by normal financial commercial means, and especially when you consider CRISPR technology. And we talked years ago, this was the Star Trek thing where you have a targeted genome where you can go after a allele and do something. And this is actually a very real and present. It hasn't happened, thank God, but it is something that is there. And if nothing else, it's just like the movie Outbreak. Influenza. The birds weaponize it just by being birds and flying from here to there.
Yep.
And it doesn't help matters that we put like bird farms, chicken farms and such right next to like hog farms.
Hey, I live near the Columbia River, and every day I go out and take a walk, and I'm navigating around piles of bird poop on the trail. It's like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. No, I get your point, David. And I like the national security riff. I mean, I believe it's an apocryphal story, but what I learned when I was a kid was that Dwight Eisenhower was able to sell the national highway system as a national defense program to the Republicans, to get them to go along with it, by virtue of arguing that certain stretches of the highway would be long enough and straight enough and not have telephone poles next to them so that if necessary, the military could land bombers and fighter jets on them.
Right, and Germany had been doing that. And Germany had done that with the Autobahn.
Oh, I know. But it turns out, I had early on in the years of this program, back in like 2004 or 2005, I did a riff about that, and somebody called me up and said, no, that's actually just a vanishing hitchhiker story. That's a legend. And I looked it up, and it is. Eisenhower never actually made that argument. But a lot of people believe he made that argument, and I'm all in favor of using national defense arguments to do good things. David, thank you. That was brilliant. I appreciate the call. 49 minutes past the hour. From all of us here on the Thom Hartmann Program to all of you, happy holidays, and thanks for listening.
The North Pole, there's a man with a list, checking it twice, seeing who he'll assist. Santa's been listening, the word's getting clear. He tunes to Thom Hartmann this time every year. Does Santa Claus listen to the Thom Hartmann Show? He's learning about democracy and all we should know. When leaders are dirty, the coal starts to flow. Does Santa Claus listen to the Thom Hartmann Show?
I think he probably does. I really do. Welcome back. Drew in Chicago. Hey, Drew, what's on your mind today?
Yes, hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. Love the work that you do. I was going to call 3 weeks ago about Biden sending out some pardons, but I didn't. A young lady previously kind of stole some of my thunder, but I think Biden should step down as president, allow VP Harris become the first African-Asian woman president, and for her to pardon him, so they can avoid that "can the president pardon himself" issue.
Oh, that's interesting.
Just as a
now,
way,
that's a good. That's the first really solid reason that I've heard for why Biden should actually step down.
Yeah. So that was my concern. To my thoughts. I just want to know what you thought. Thank you for your time.
Now in that context, it makes a lot of sense because there is. Only a small doubt in my mind that Donald Trump and his, especially if he gets the people that he's nominating, Kash Patel at the FBI and all these crazy, if he gets them, he's going to come after the Biden family too. So we'll see. Yes. Drew, thank you for the call. That was a good one. James in Federal Way, Washington. Hey, James, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. It's an honor to speak to you again. This is going to be difficult. Yeah, thanks. This is going to be difficult for me, not only because part of my tongue is gone, but it's my feelings that are badly hurt, because I got to say, I have a bachelor's degree in administration from Washington State University. I'm looking at all this chaos as you would in a company. I'm kind of following the money trail like you would in a criminal investigation, and unfortunately, everything leads right back to Biden's desk. And Nicole stole most of my thunder, but I just want to say 3.5 years ago, Biden could have gotten us an effective Department of Justice. He could have gotten rid of Garland and gotten a bar.
Well, he shouldn't have put him in the first place.
Right. And
it was a consolation prize.
To have somebody that high up in the criminal justice system that is so ineffective just gives all these youngsters, these young kids, the idea that there is no law.
Yeah.
And they can go out and steal cars, and they can hijack cars.
Hey,
and
if the President of the United States has been convicted of 34 felonies, why not me?
Exactly. And I told my granddaughter, who's in law school now, a long time ago when Trump came in, that this is going to happen. The young people are going to lose respect for the law, and there's going to be so much crime we won't even be able to believe it. And I turn on the radio every morning, and I can hardly believe what all these young kids are doing. And unfortunately, I got to say again, it all falls back on Biden's desk.
Yeah, well, I'm not willing to blame Biden for the ills of the world or of America. I will, and have many times argued that Merrick Garland was a bad appointment, and he should have done something about that.
I really need you to reflect on is that Biden has new powers, and he won't use them.
Well, he doesn't have new powers. He has the ability to break the law, and if then see, the Supreme Court put a big caveat in there. They didn't say presidents can just break the law anytime they want. They said if the president breaks the law in the course of doing his job, then before you can prosecute him, you have to come back to us and ask us if this is a prosecutable offense. They enhanced the powers of the Supreme Court and reduced the power of the Justice Department. And most people miss that entirely, which means that if Biden breaks the law and 6 Republicans on the Supreme Court think he broke the law, he still goes to prison. If Trump breaks the law and 6 Republicans on the Supreme Court kind of like what he did, he doesn't go to prison. And so, it's a distinction that's a really important one. And if you're going to go down that road of Biden should be breaking the law, you need to read that Supreme Court decision, because it doesn't say what apparently you think it says. But James, spot on. I get what you're saying. Thank you for the call. Al in Santa Ana, California. Hey, Al, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, Tom?
I'm here.
All right, man. I was reading somewhere that we get a market crash or a Great Depression every 100 years because we forget the lessons.
Yeah, every 80 years is the theory, but yeah.
Yeah, and with Trump and his 20 to 30% tariffs, which we're going to pay for, and him deporting all the cheap labor, all the immigrants,
you are going to see a Great Depression. You're right, Al.
Right. He's going to deregulate all the banksters to do all their crazy schemes.
Yeah.
And, we're going to have hyperinflation and high prices and
I think it's going to go crazy if he does the things he says he's going to do. I think it's going to go crazy, and right. Here's an amazing thing, Al. When Kirsten Welker asked him, "Don't you think you'll have inflation if you raise tariffs?" He said, "Well, we had tariffs before and we didn't get inflation, and we did get inflation. We got inflation for 3 years." And when I saw that, I turned to Louise and I said, "If Joe Biden." When he came into office, and inflation was already there, when he came into office, he should have started referring to that as the Trump tariff inflation. And if he had spent 3 or 4 years referring to the Trump tariff inflation rather than simply calling it inflation, then Kamala Harris would be president right now. Yeah, or the Trump tax cut inflation, or the Trump tax cut and tariff inflation. I mean, if he had laid that inflation at the feet of the Trump administration, which is where it should have been, it was really the result. I mean, let's just be honest. It was really the result of the pandemic shutting down, international trade, and because it hit the entire world. So it's a little disingenuous to entirely blame it on Trump, but I think it was as bad as it was because of Trump's inactions and just general incompetence. But this is the failure of Democrats to message properly. Al, I got to run, but thanks for the call. Heidi Siegmund Cuda is going to join us on the other side of this break for a 10-15-minute conversation, and then I'll get back to your calls. I think you're going to find it fascinating. Stay with us. In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at ThomHartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at ThomHartmann.com. So check them all out at ThomHartmann.com and HartmannReport.com. Time is getting tight, and I need you to take this very seriously. We, Free Speech TV, for a couple of years, we were doing fund drives that were running 3 and 4 weeks, and it was just kind of really stretching out. And they decided, let's just do nice, tight 2 weeks and just make it very clear to everybody that it's only 2 weeks that we're going to be talking about this. And get your contribution in if you want to participate in this extraordinary network, if you want to help keep this network going, if you want to be part of this network network that has educated so many of us. Right? I learned from Free Speech TV. I'm sure you learned from Free Speech TV. I love learning. It's one of the main reasons I do half of what I do. It's life constant. You constantly want to be learning through life, right? And this is one of the great educational pieces. Education is such a vital component. And, Free Speech TV understands that. And when you give to Free Speech TV, well, by way of education, for example, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, every single one of them autographed by the author. That's kind of cool, right? I like it because I'm the author, but it's just, I put a lot of work into those books. And I learned a lot in the course of writing them about guns, about health care, about the right to vote, about the Supreme Court, about, oligarchy. So, with a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which includes a Free Speech TV cookie, the copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and some other goodies that get thrown in. With a $100 gift, they will plant a tree for you. And as I said, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 books. So in that context, and in honor of the education we all get from Free Speech TV, here's President John Kennedy, May 18th, 1963, talking about that very topic.
But the educated citizen knows how much more there is to know. He knows that knowledge is power, more so today than ever before. He knows that only an educated and informed people will be a free people. That the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all. And that if we can, as Jefferson put it, enlighten the people generally, tyranny and the oppressions of mind and body will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of day. And therefore, the educated citizen has a special obligation to encourage the pursuit of learning, to promote exploration of the unknown, to preserve the freedom of inquiry, to support the advancement of research, and to assist at every level of government the improvement of education for all Americans, from grade school to graduate school. Secondly, the educated citizen has an obligation to serve the public. He may be a precinct worker or president. He may give his talents at the courthouse, the state house, the White House. He may be a civil servant or a senator, a candidate or a campaign worker, a winner or a loser. But he must be a participant and not a spectator.
There you go. President John Kennedy talking about education, and it's so true. And it's so sad to watch right now as we're up to, I believe, 4 or 5 states now that are doing statewide voucher systems to try to destroy their public education systems because Republicans hate teachers' unions and they would really rather people were not all that well informed about civics and science and, hey, let's just go with superstition. I mean, now you've got a couple of states where kids can learn religion during their classroom times. It's just crazy. Anyhow, we work hard to educate people here on Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a source of education. I think one of the better sources of education about certainly what's going on politically and what's going on with our republic and around the world, for that matter. So please call now 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. This network has just done such a spectacular job. The people who are running this network really work hard to keep it going, to keep the more smoothly things operate, the more effortless things seem, the more work went into them. It's one of the things about the media, and I think it's true probably for pretty much any art form as well, whether it's writing or painting or whatever, that people just think, oh yeah, you just open the microphone and talk, or oh yeah, you just set up a camera, and it's just, no. A lot of work goes into putting these programs together, a lot of work. And a lot of work goes into keeping this network running, dealing with the business side of it, dealing with the economics of it. It's one of the reasons why monthly contributions, regular monthly contributions, if you sign up not just to get, a one-time gift or make a one-time donation, but also to donate every single month so that Free Speech TV can budget, so that, the people who are running the network can look at the budgets and say, oh, here's what we can expect. It's so important. It's just so important. So please consider making a one-time contribution and a regular monthly contribution. 877-378-8669, freespeech.org. Thank you so much for your support. Please call now.
Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the third hour of our program. On the line with us, our buddy Heidi Siegmund Cuda, the author and Emmy Award-winning investigative reporter, the co-host of the Radicalized Truth Survives podcast, and she has just an extraordinary newsletter, Substack newsletter, over at BettyDangerous.com, B-E-T-T-E, you know, like Betty Davis, BettyDangerous.com. And Heidi, welcome back to the program.
I'm so glad to be here with you today, Tom.
It's wild times we're living in, I'm telling you. You have just rolled out an ebook, and also you've put it online so pretty much anybody can read it over at Betty Dangerous, your 2016 election attack series, The Greatest Crime in American History, parts 1 through 5. I'd like to walk through this with you, if you don't mind, because you've really done the research. Where does the 2016 election crime begin?
Well, I just would like to draw people's attention to a quote from President Carter, who said, "I think a full investigation would show that Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered on his behalf." That was from President Carter on June 28th of 2019.
You know, he said that on this program, too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, that's incredible. So for me, it begins in 2011 when Hillary Clinton demanded or asked for an international investigation into Putin's election in 2011, which she felt was fraudulent. And then in 2014, Putin sent spies to America to figure out where our vulnerabilities were, where our weaknesses, particularly in what they learned were purple states, our racial issues, our divisions, our misogyny, and thus began the full court press exploitation of our weaknesses and divisions by the troll operation, and I hate calling it that, as you know, the Internet Research Agency in St. Petersburg, run by Wagner Group's Prigozhin, who was alive at that time. In any case, so for me, it begins there. It begins with this online influence campaign blanketing all of social media, where people in St. Petersburg pretended to be Americans and divide us up. Meanwhile, you have people in America who are doing the same thing. So it begins in my book with me looking at the same organized crime ring that is about to take power in our country and do a decapitation strike was involved in promoting the same type of Russian narratives that were made to look like American patriots online, particularly at Twitter. And when I saw people like Trump and Musk and Dinesh D'Souza whinging about this guy, Douglas Mackey, who was charged by our Justice Department for interfering with our elections on Twitter by pretending people could vote from home and targeting Hillary supporters, that guy, Douglas Mackey, received a 7-month sentence, but you had this cabal that's about to take power in our country complaining about that and saying, oh, he was just a shit poster. That was not the case.
Yeah,
he
was
prosecuted.
Forgive the interruption, but we're on live broadcast stations and we can't use language like that. So apologies to anybody who may be offended, but keep going. I understand.
I apologize. I was using a word that is a colloquial. Okay, I apologize for that, Tom. Thank you for letting me know. Bottom line is that they were this gang was trying to minimize the impacts of what was happening on social media. And as you know, this same crew always says, oh, you know, you can't have any censorship. But we have learned more recently from our Justice Department that covert influence activities are not journalism. So you had this group particularly on Twitter, pushing out the same narratives that were coming from the St. Petersburg troll operation. And I felt it was incredibly important to look at that. So I did a 5-part series which focused on the part 1 is about the digital guerrilla, the case I was just talking about with Douglas Mackey, who became this Russian propaganda super spreader. The second was the Translator Project, which showed exactly what was happening in St. Petersburg, and it relates to our muted response to the election today because, for example, the Women's March erupted in 2016, this global movement of women who came out and said something terrible just happened in America. But meanwhile, in St. Petersburg, teams of trolls were working around the clock for the next 18 months to destroy that movement by pretending to be Americans who were complaining about this, that, and the other thing and trying to divide people. And it was effective because it kneecapped the operation. And to bring this to the present, what we just learned from Romania is when hybrid warfare is being waged, you can actually nullify an election, which is what just happened in Romania. The next part was about how, I show Roger Stone's involvement in this. I show Paul Manafort's involvement. And the bottom line is that if we don't look at recent history, we're never going to be able to come out from under what just happened to us. Like I said at the beginning, a decapitation strike by American billionaires who are part of what I believe is an organized crime ring to stay out of prison. Other countries are doing a much better job and setting a much better example of what we could do to stop this.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the Romanian situation is really quite remarkable. I mean, it's, in fact, if you could describe that in a little more detail, I'd appreciate it for our listeners.
Sure. Well, the bottom line is they just looked around and saw what just happened in our election. How did we just get this right-winger who was on TikTok elected? And they looked and saw, and again, some of the same characters we've seen before. I've been seeing Brad Parscale's name thrown around in this. They said our country was being attacked by hybrid warfare, which is, it should have never been called warfare, which is war. It is a way to, basically mess with people's minds and take them away from reality. And so they nullified the first round of their presidential elections. They said, we've been targeted by Russia. They targeted us through social media. So they've actually nullified the first round.
Right, which is incredible. I mean, it's just that a country would just, come right out and say, Russia just tried to interfere in our elections, and we're going to say no, because the pro-Russian candidate was the guy who had won in that first round. Sadly, we've done nothing like that here in the United States. If you can stick around for another 15 minutes or so, I'd like to continue walking through your book. Is that all right with you?
That'd be great, Tom.
Okay,
Thank you.
So you've laid out, starting in St. Petersburg, going all the way back to shortly after 2011. Now we're to part 2. What's the second part of your book?
Well, so just in opening with, I just want to go back to the 2016 is the pivotal moment that most Americans who pay attention to information warfare will remember. Twitter was an absolute crime scene. You had people like Roger Stone, a close Trump ally, retweeting the same stuff that Douglas Mackey tweeted about election interference, using memes that encourage Hillary supporters to vote by text from home. That's not a thing. And thousands of people did that. And so for me, it's like, even if you had, one vote change, shouldn't that be something that is investigated? And shouldn't somebody like Roger Stone be held to account for that? And the overarching thing that continually comes through my work and comes out in this book is we have a terrible, terrible time in America at dealing with actual treason, at dealing with actual traitors. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that, because some of what we need to do now is actually deal with that pretty quickly, because because, again, same people, same billionaires involved, paying people to interfere with our election. And, so I opened with the crime scene of Twitter and how difficult it was to actually piece together
so let me pause you there if I can.
Yes.
Because we're going to hit a break here. We'll be back in just a moment. It's 15 minutes past the hour. Heidi Siegmund Cuda is with us. Betty Dangerous, BETTE dangerous.com is her website.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And it's where you can find her 2016 election attack series, The Greatest Crime in American History. It's available there also as an ebook. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Heidi. So, Heidi, keep going.
Again, I apologize for using a bad word. I feel terrible about
that's quite
that.
Right.
I didn't know that was still a bad word.
Yeah.
So listen, one of the things I think it's really important to do is look at what was happening. Again, the attack. So about the second or third part of this book focuses on what we know from what was happening in Russia from the actual employees who were doing this work to attack America. And keep in mind, part of their job was to mess with Ukrainians' understanding of reality as well as the Russian people's understanding of reality. But I focus on what was called the Translator Project, and we know that's what it was called because multiple Russians were indicted for this. And one of the women who worked on this project said it felt like half the country was trolls. And that really struck me because I think that, again, because we do not address information warfare in any meaningful way in America, I think people will be surprised at how many people are more than willing to take money to do this feeding of unreality.
Sure.
But she said something, this particular person who worked on the operation says something that I would love your readers to understand. She explained that for the public, it is harmful because we are being brainwashed. The trolls themselves are being brainwashed. We won't be able to understand what is really happening. We are put against one another and are sliding back into the old ways when we were searching for the enemy among us, our friends, our colleagues, that feeling from the Soviet times. That really struck me because there's the escalation of paranoia that they are pushing into the news sphere and into people's, minds, while they too are also being affected by it. And there's a moment where one of the trolls was sitting there taking in information on what his duties were, and he realized that he no longer cared about truth. He just didn't care. So this assault on reality is the most important thing, I think, that America still has not addressed in any meaningful way. And I continue to show how, for example, here's a tweet from Donald Trump. It shows that he actually uses the exact same wording as the propagandists coming out of St. Petersburg. So once again, I go back to Jimmy Carter. I think a full investigation would show that in 2016, Trump was aided into office by the Russians. And I think it's safe to say when you have Paul Manafort as his, pro bono campaign manager, and Paul Manafort had just done the same job 10 years ago in Ukraine, getting paid tens of millions of dollars to reinvent a Viktor Yanukovych to become sort of the gangster in Ukraine and take over the presidency. Like, where are our intelligence agents? We've done all these limited hangouts, these limited prosecutions, a little bit of prison time here or there, but we are talking about our inability to deal with what I believe is actual treason, and that is all throughout the book. We show Roger Stone's role. I'm sure your viewers know Roger Stone has been a malignancy on democracy for many years, going back to, the Nixon tattoo on his back and the 2000 Brooks Brothers riots.
Oh, and he used to sign memos with the SS logo, the Nazi SS. It's insane.
There's nothing cute.
Excuse me, Heidi. We're talking to Heidi Siegmund Cuda. BettyDangerous.com is the website. Heidi, we'll be back on the other side in 60 seconds. Please stay with us.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. It's 19 minutes past the hour. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. Between 1920 and 1980, America went from the middle class being about 10 or 12% of us up to being over 60% of us. What drove that was high taxation. The high tax rates. Woodrow Wilson had 91% income tax rate. Franklin Roosevelt, 90% top income tax rate. Lyndon Johnson dropped it down to 74%. But from that, throughout that entire period of time, with the exception of the Roaring 20s, this is a brief little 10-year period, 12-year period, the top income tax rate was in the neighborhood of 74 to 90%. And what that did was it caused really rich people to leave their money in their businesses and pay their workers well, and that produced the middle class. Reagan came along and dropped that top tax rate down to 25% and then 27%, and it's now in the 30s, and that's what killed the middle class. We need to bring back these high taxes. There's a whole article about it at HartmannReport.com. Will the morbidly rich ever go back to being good citizens? Check it out.
Every time I vote, I get so mad. The billionaires are laughing, it's so sad. They bought the laws, they bought the game, and now they're selling us all shame. All I want for Christmas is my democracy, back my democracy.
Yeah, we would all like our democracy back from the billionaires. Welcome back. Betty Dangerous is the website, BETTE dangerous.com. Heidi Siegmund Cuda is Betty Dangerous and is sharing with us the story, this ebook, and it's also online over at BettyDangerous.com, the election attack series, What Happened in 2016. So Heidi, just a moment ago, and we've got about 4 minutes left here before we're going to hit a break.
Yeah.
Just a moment ago, you were talking about Paul Manafort. He was paid, I think it was $14 million by a Putin-affiliated oligarch to install a Putin-friendly president, Yanukovych, in Ukraine. He comes over to the United States and says, "I'll work for you for free." And he runs Trump's campaign, is feeding information to Russian intelligence from the secret internal polling from the Republicans about which states and which counties and even maybe which individuals need to be targeted on Facebook. Continue the story.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's so great to speak with somebody who understands the gravity of the situation. Paul Manafort, it was a gray cardinal. Paul Manafort got Yanukovych reinstalled, and what happened then? He refused to sign a letter saying that he would be moving Ukraine toward the EU. And what happened then? Young people said, we need this. We need to be able to get visas. Then we had the revolution of dignity, where old and young joined in. And guess what happened to Viktor? He was forced to flee to Moscow with 40 of his other criminal friends. And I bring this up because right now in America, we're searching for what to do. What do we do? Well, I think it's going to take something like young and old getting together and, starting to protest against this, because this is not normal what's happened in America. And I was going to lead you to one part of my book where I go through a timeline. We literally have Trump in Helsinki in 2018 saying, he doesn't see that Russia interfered. 3 days earlier, we have our, law enforcement agencies charging the Russians for interfering. A few days after that, we have Roger Stone saying he's in touch with the GRU. This was, he was in touch with an account, this Guccifer account, basically that we now know, is related to the we have all these signs. I'm just looking at this timeline going, we have all of this activity. It's all laid out. If I can figure it out, then our intelligence agencies know this is happening. So why the limited hangouts? We must get better at prosecuting traitors and foreign agents working with foreign enemies who are literally at this moment trying to overthrow the United States of America. And what I really wanted to make sure I shared with your viewers, I think right now we need a leader and not a bureaucrat. There are so many things that Joe Biden could do today to stop what I believe is this fascist train, and we need to do this.
Give us a quick list.
Well, I mean, one of them is let's billionaires working for foreign agents and foreign enemies need to be arrested. Okay, if you took money from the Saudis and the Russians and used a social media platform to actually push an election towards your candidate for fear of going to prison, which Elon Musk said in his own words, arrest him. Let's detain him. Let's do what we used to do with traitors. We used to strip them of citizenship. We used to deport them. We used to incarcerate them. What we need to be protected from these billionaires because they're literally trying to decapitate our democracy. We have to stop with this muted response in America. We are in a terrible crisis. Old and young need to get together. MAGA needs to join us. Nobody wants what's coming. And right now we have the opportunity to protest because Joe Biden is still our president. So I think we need to actually deal with foreign enemy agents. We need to still remember that we are at this moment a country of laws, and Biden has to use his power. He could flood the Supreme Court. We have criminals on our Supreme Court who took what anybody else would call as bribes in any other business. Yeah, and I believe that even MAGA is starting to come out of its stupor when they see that all these things are about to be taken away from us. So at the very least, investigate some bomb threats. Let's take a look at that. We had bomb threats during our election. Let's take a look at that. I mean, there's I got a long list, Tom.
I get it.
I know we're probably out of time.
So where can people find your book, Heidi?
If you go to Betty Dangerous, BETTE dangerous.com, one of the first things you'll see is an invitation to join my Substack. And when you do, anybody who becomes a member today gets a free copy of this book. And for those who don't have money, the series is available for free at Betty Dangerous. If you want to go to my coffee account, KO-FI, and look for Heidi Cuda, you'll find all of my ebooks right there. The American Monsters series is a really good one, too.
Yeah, it really is. And you pull no punches. I so respect that. Betty Dangerous. Heidi Siegmund Cuda. And BETTE dangerous.com is the website. Heidi, thanks so much for dropping by, and happy holidays.
Thanks, Tom. You as well.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And on the other side of this break, I'll be picking up your calls. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, time is getting tight, and I need you to take this very seriously. We, Free Speech TV, for a couple of years, we were doing fund drives that were running 3 and 4 weeks, and it was just kind of really stretching out. And they decided, let's just do nice, tight 2 weeks and just make it very clear to everybody that it's only 2 weeks that we're going to be talking about this. And get your contribution in if you want to participate in this extraordinary network. If you want to help keep this network going, if you want to be part of this network that has educated so many of us, right? I learned from Free Speech TV. I'm sure you learned from Free Speech TV. I love learning. It's one of the main reasons I do half of what I do. It's life constant. You constantly want to be learning through life, right? And this is one of the great educational pieces. Education is such a vital component. And, Free Speech TV understands that. And when you give to Free Speech TV, by way of education, for example, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, every single one of them autographed by the author. That's kind of cool, right? I like it because I'm the author, but I put a lot of work into those books. And I learned a lot in the course of writing them about guns, about health care, about the right to vote, about the Supreme Court, about, oligarchy. So with a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which includes the Free Speech TV cookie, the copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and some other goodies that get thrown in. With a $100 gift, they will plant a tree for you. And as I said, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 books. So in that context, and in honor of the education we all get from Free Speech TV, here's President John Kennedy, May 18th, 1963, talking about that very topic.
But the educated citizen knows how much more there is to know. He knows that knowledge is power. more so today than ever before. He knows that only an educated and informed people will be a free people. That the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all. And that if we can, as Jefferson put it, enlighten the people generally, tyranny and the oppressions of mind and body will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of day. And therefore, the educated citizen has a special obligation to encourage the pursuit of learning, to promote exploration of the unknown, to preserve the freedom of inquiry, to support the advancement of research, and to assist at every level of government the improvement of education for all Americans, from grade school to graduate school. Secondly, the educated citizen has an obligation to serve the public. He may be a precinct worker or president. He may give his talents at the courthouse, the state house, the White House. He may be a civil servant or a senator, a candidate or a campaign worker, a winner or a loser. But he must be a participant and not a spectator.
There you go. President John Kennedy talking about education, and it's so true. And it's so sad to watch right now as we're up to, I believe, 4 or 5 states now that are doing statewide voucher systems to try to destroy their public education systems because Republicans hate teachers' unions and you know, they would really rather people were not all that well informed about civics and science and, you know, hey, let's just go with superstition. I mean, now you've got a couple of states where kids can learn religion during their classroom times. It's just crazy. Anyhow, we work hard to educate people here on Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a source of education. I think one of the better sources of education about certainly what's going on politically and what's going on, you know, with our republic and around the world, for that matter. So please call now 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. This network has just done such a spectacular job. The people who are running this network really work hard to keep it going, to keep, you know, the more smoothly things operate, the more effortless things seem, the more work went into them. It's one of the things about the media, and I think it's true probably for pretty much any art form as well. You know, whether it's writing or painting or whatever, that people just think, oh yeah, you know, you just open the microphone and talk, or oh yeah, you just set up a camera, and it's just no. A lot of work goes into putting these programs together. A lot of work. And a lot of work goes into keeping this network running, dealing with the business side of it, dealing with the economics of it. It's one of the reasons why monthly contributions, regular monthly contributions, if you sign up not just to get, you know, a one-time gift or make a one-time donation, but also to donate every single month so that Free Speech TV can budget, so that, you know, the people who are running the network can look at the budgets and say, oh, here's what we can expect. It's so important. It's just so important. So please consider making a one-time contribution and a regular monthly contribution. 877-378-8669, freespeech.org. Thank you so much for your support. Please call now. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio, and tag you're it.
Turn off that channel, it's filling you with lies, spreading fear and anger beneath those polished ties. They twist the truth and bend the facts, it's all a grand disguise. Don't let them rot your mind away, don't buy their alibis. Don't listen to Fox, so-called news. It's misleading, it's wrong, it's designed to confuse. It will watch your brain and make you mean. Turn off the noise and say the truth unseen.
Welcome back, 34 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls here. Colin in Findlay Park, Illinois. Hey, Colin, what's up?
Well, I was just listening to your guest, and she pretty much talking about the things I wanted to mention.
Okay, go for it.
So, but you covered it all. I says that there's got to be things that Joe Biden can do, and apparently there are things he can do, but he's not doing them.
Yeah, I get it.
You just can't let these national security threats into the House. You just can't let them in. Once they're in there, there's no stopping it. So it's got to be. There's something he's got to do, and your guest was right on the money.
Yep. I would love to see him do them.
That could be done.
I would love to see all of it. I don't expect it, but I would love to see it. I'm with you, Colin. Colin, thank you. It's Curtis in Phoenix. Hey, Curtis, what's on your mind today?
I was thinking. First of all, do you know you do know the concept of manifest destiny from our history, right?
Sure.
Yeah, God has made it possible for the United States to extend from ocean to ocean. God did that. Now, God has put Trump back in office. God has done everything he could or she could to keep this country from realizing what it's supposed.
Curtis, your phone is falling apart. I don't know if you were on hold so long the battery died or what, but I have lost you. I'm sorry. Mike in Seattle. Hey, Mike, what's on your mind today?
Oh, I wanted to advocate for a smooth transition. I read several places that said Barron Trump that Melania was not a citizen when he was born, so he'd be the recipient of birthright citizenship. So should not Joe Biden get a head start on Trump's position and deport Barron like today, and see what the position would be? I mean, put him right at the head of the line, and separation of parents. I mean, the parents can go with him. Although I'm not quite sure that he's related to Trump.
Well, and
let's see what.
And when Melania did become a citizen, she became a citizen. Actually, maybe it wasn't the citizenship. It was the visa that she got to be able to live here and marry Trump. Was the Einstein visa. It was a visa that we reserved to people like Werner von Braun. It's for people who have extraordinary talents and skills that are important for the future of the United States. That's the visa that she got to allow her to stay here.
Yeah, it's like really pretty fake.
And her parents are here as, what do they used to call it? The derisive term chain migration, I think?
Yeah. Yeah, she chained both of her parents in.
Yeah.
One of them sadly passed away. But let's see what Trump would say when asked. And come on, media, grow a spine and ask him.
Yeah, there you go. I'm with you, Mike. Thank you very much. Jill in Manila, Indiana. Hey, Jill, what's up?
Hi, Tom.
Hey.
It was good seeing you on Joy Reid last night. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, thank you. I love Joy's show. She does such a good job.
Yeah, I did too. I like Joy's. I like Rachel Maddow. And I wish that they would do a story on this. I read an article last night. I don't know if you've seen it. A real long article in the Washington Post that's... hope you can hear me.
I can just
how billionaire Charles Koch's network won a 40-year award called regulation. A seismic Supreme Court ruling has ushered in a new era, a diminished federal power. The next Trump administration hopes to capitalize on it. And it was Charles Koch's whole network out there that took down the Chevron doctrine.
Yep.
And they have got cases keyed up for this next administration to put in front of the Supreme Court to just take all the power away from the federal government, regulatory, and just make them impotent where they cannot regulate these businesses anymore.
Correct.
And we're just going to be in, I don't know, it's just crazy.
Where'd you see the article,
scary. In Washington Post, it was on my phone.
Today?
Where I get my news. Last night I read it, and it's really long. And it goes into all of the different organizations and the ones that got this case for the to dismantle the Chevron deference, and they're talking about they're going to key up a whole bunch of more to just get rid, and they're going to make Congress impotent where they cannot.
No, they want the oligarchs to run the country, just like in Hungary, just like in Russia. You know, they don't want people who are answerable to we the people running the country. I mean, they want the billionaires running the country because they're billionaires after all.
But they have been at this, and I mean, someone needs to do a big documentary on Coke.
Yeah.
Because they've been doing this for 40 years. I mean, Americans for Prosperity were the ones that got Mike Pence elected governor of Indiana.
Yep.
All of his stuff was paid for by Americans for Prosperity. And he was real big. He went to all their meetings and all that stuff. And I'm sure that's why they told Trump to pick him for vice president. Because he was
a loyal soldier for the billionaires class. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And the evangelicals, so that they could get that vote and get all that in there. But I swear that's why in Indiana, you know, it has turned so ruby red because they have just bought out every Republican in the state, and you cannot fight back anymore. And it's frightening. It's overwhelming. I mean, we have to find a way to get back at this, to undermine them, to find a way that we can do something.
I'm with you, Jill. I'm completely with you. Thank you very much for pointing that out. A great call. Thank you. Brant in Travels Rest, South Carolina. Hey, Brant, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I wanted to speak on the Jim Clyburn situation.
Apparently he was pushing this a few weeks ago, and I missed it.
I knew about it a few days ago. I think he's somehow thinking he's protected himself. I don't know if you know about the ProPublica article from a year and a half ago.
About Clyburn?
Is that he had protected his seat and diminished the possibility of other Democrats being elected to the House in South Carolina.
Whoa, I missed that.
Were you aware of that?
No.
Yes, some secret meeting, one of his aides went to the Republican leadership and made this deal. And what's interesting, and I don't know...
Did this have to do with redistricting, with gerrymandering?
It made sure that his wasn't gerrymandered to remove him from his seat.
I get it.
But it also made the Charleston possibility less likely and the Rock Hill possibility less likely.
Possibility of what?
Having a Democrat represent South Carolina.
Okay.
Those two places, when I was growing up here, were generally Democratic seats. So I don't know if he feels like he's protecting himself somehow or what. I think some of the older members of the House need to leave and let some younger Democrats have a chance at running for these seats.
I agree.
I think that has a lot to do with why the election was lost. There definitely needs to be a change.
I think a lot of the old leadership on the Democratic side, and Chuck Schumer, I'm looking at you, are still living in the 1970s, and it is time to realize that you've got a full-blown pseudo-Nazi fascist about to come into office, and empowered by a spectrum of right-wing billionaires and the richest man in the world, and they're not going to take prisoners. This isn't going to be a gradual thing. This isn't going to be, the bumbling around that Trump did the first time in 2016 and during his first 4 years. This is going to be an all-out assault on what remains of the American government and what remains of our democracy. And we need to realize that. Joe Biden needs to act like that's what's going on, and we all need to get active. Brant, thank you for the call. I didn't realize that about Jim Clyburn. 44 and a half minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a second. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Helping you win the water cooler wars. I'll be right back with your calls. And welcome back, Alfredo in Mountain View, California. Hey, Alfredo, what's up?
Hey, hi, Tom. Thank you for taking my call. Yeah, your guest was right on cue, on point. She was great. Regarding the immigration issue your callers keep bringing up, as I mentioned to you before, this is an issue that this is a problem that has been created by the United States policy of sanctions against countries in Latin America and South America, particularly Venezuela, and also these one-sided trade agreements that we have with these countries as well. That is what's creating this problem of inflow of Latin American people coming to this country. And the other issue is that if Trump deports many of these people out of this country, a lot of farms and small businesses like restaurants and so on depend on the cheap labor of some of these workers to survive. Okay. What is going to happen to all of these businesses? He's going to create a vacuum, a lot of unemployment. This is going to be a disaster.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And, and I'm no fan of illegal immigration, but you have to, this is something that has been coming on gradually over the past 40, 50 years, and you're going to have to resolve the issue gradually if you don't want to see a massive dislocation of our economy.
And one of your callers was mentioning that some of the workers that come here that we shouldn't provide health care for them. They pay taxes from their salaries, and so a portion of that money goes to health care when they need it. So this is going to be, in my opinion, a disaster for the economy, and it's going to be ugly. It's going to be really ugly.
I think you're absolutely right. I really do. Yep. Thank you, Alfredo.
Thank you, Tom.
Yep. John in Tacoma. Hey, John, what's up?
Good morning, Tom. Love your show.
Thank you.
Back in 2016, after Trump's inauguration, I was waiting to see what he was going to do on day one. Well, my Sunday paper came, and there, I think it was on the front page, the first thing he did that I got a report on was to release sophisticated encryption software to Russia.
Really?
Can you believe it?
I don't recall that.
No, it was just kind of a small article. It wasn't Tacoma reporters, but it came from back east. Mm-hmm. And he released encryption software to Russia. Day one.
I am not surprised. I mean, we've known all along that Trump loves Putin and that he's probably been an agent of the old Soviet Union. I mean, go back to the 80s. He went over to the Soviet Union with his wife, whose father was an intelligence agent for the Soviet Union. And when he came back from that meeting in the 80s, he immediately published a piece calling for basically gutting NATO and ending our relationship with Japan. And, he's been on this pro-Putin or pro-Russia wagon ever since. I mean, we should have known. We should have friggin' known. John, thank you for the call. Wow, 49 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay with us. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Back in 1968, when Lyndon Johnson was president, Earl Warren resigned from the Supreme Court. He was a liberal, even though he had been appointed by Eisenhower. Johnson wasn't able to replace him, in part because of Republican opposition in the Senate. And so when Nixon came in, he had this opening, but he wanted to have two openings. He wanted to get rid of Abe Fortas, who was the most liberal member of the court. So he had his Attorney General, John Mitchell, start an investigation into Abe Fortas's wife. Now, there was nothing there. There was no smoke at all. She had done absolutely nothing wrong, and history has proven that. But they were going to drag her before a grand jury and possibly before Congress and just, you know, drag her through the mud. And this caused Abe Fortas to resign, and that gave Nixon two openings, and that's how the court turned to the right. I'm suggesting that Democrats should do the same thing with Justice Thomas. I've got an op-ed about it at Hartmann Report. You can read it over there. Check it out.
It's beginning to look a lot like fascism everywhere you go. Take a look at the laws they pass, banning books, in essence stoking fear of those they don't control. It's beginning to look a lot like fascism, cops with riot gear. But the scariest sight to see is the hate they spread so free, year by year.
Yeah, it's beginning to look like fascism. 51 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Rod in Marinette, Wisconsin. Hey, Rod, what's up?
Hey, well, thank you. It's a real pleasure talking to you. I just wanted to see or state my opinion and see what you thought. I'd really like to see Vice President Kamala Harris, stay relevant. I had the opportunity to see her in Green Bay, and the excitement and enthusiasm there was just unbelievable. And she just seemed to get better and better and better as she, campaigned. And her policies were precise, her message were precise, and were clear. And I just believe she was an excellent candidate. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to see her somehow, get on podcasts. And I guess it depends if that's what she wants to do. But I believe she could just be a real leader. I mean, she had 75 million votes, almost 75 million votes. She has nothing to be ashamed of. And it seems like she's just disappearing.
Yeah, I'm wondering what happened. I mean, I expected her to be a fighter, after her election loss, and to be our champion. And I've seen no evidence of that, which is really disappointing. So yes, I agree with you, Rod. I would like to see her speaking up, hear her speaking up.
I mean, I can understand that maybe, the finances are there, or maybe, her hands are tied a little bit. She's
got a bully pulpit. She can just, step out in front of a camera anytime she wants and say anything she wants.
She could be on Face the Nation every Sunday if she wants to.
She could, and she should. I'm with you. Rod,
yes,
please, Kamala, if you're listening, get active. Thank you, Rod. Gus in Woodstock, New York. Hey, Gus, thanks for listening to 104.1. What's on your mind today?
Sure, I'm just going to get right to it because I'm 82 years old. So if you're going to wait to see what Trump does and then react, you already lost.
Yep.
So, and you can understand that until a new president is actually sworn in, he's most vulnerable. So I think Harris owes a debt to the voters that voted for her. She needs to honor those voters. So if you even got a percentage of it, you would have probably 2 million people and just have a march on Washington.
I think that's going to happen a couple days before the swearing in. My understanding is that there is a march planned for the 17th.
Okay, there is something. Yeah, like a We Are mandate
it's
march.
Getting no publicity whatsoever, though, so I'm not sure it's actually how real it is. I just,
Yeah, well, you have to think outside the box and have some kind of faith, that's for sure, right?
I'm with you, Gus.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's hope for the best.
There you go.
That's what we could do.
I think your point is well made. Thank you. Rob in Rochester, New York. Hey, Rob, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I kind of am pretty much disturbed at the point that Biden hasn't done anything with DeJoy. I thought they were going to maybe make it a part of the campaign. Hey,
he doesn't have the power to kick out DeJoy. That has to be done by the Postal Board of Governors. He has appointed Democrats to the board who have said that they will
appoint 2 more Democrats, which he has the power to do.
He has done that. He has done that. The problem is you have to get them through the Senate, and I think the last guy just got through the Senate in the last week or two. I could be wrong, though. I'm not sure. I have not been following that super carefully, but that's been the problem, Rob. Rob, thank you for the call. Jonathan in Centerville, Tennessee. Hey, Jonathan, what's up?
Hey, I had some questions for you. I feel confident at this point in labeling the Republican Party as authoritarian. I was wondering if there's a difference between authoritarianism and fascism, and I'm just looking for a definition of fascism.
Yeah, authoritarianism basically means that you've got a form of government where the leadership, and typically it's one person, rules by decree. They are the authority. They are the power. The power is centralized in one place. With fascism, you have a lot of overlap with that, but there's also the integration of business and corporate, interests and government interests. Corporate capture of government. There's also belligerent nationalism. That's a defining characteristic of fascism. And aggressive lying, BSing the people. I think authoritarianism is a typical facet of fascism, but it doesn't necessarily define it. Jonathan, thanks for the call. Jeff in Cambridge, Minnesota. Hey, Jeff, I think I've got about 20 seconds. You got a quick one?
That's about all I need. 2 reasons for Biden to resign. One, already been suggested that Kamala could pardon him. Second, if Kamala is president, she can publish the ERA.
Oh, yeah, the Equal Rights Amendment, yes, which has been passed, yep. and I think we're in a break now. No. Apparently not. Okay, yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. Yeah, the Equal Rights Amendment has been passed by the House and Senate by the 2/3 margin. It has been ratified by 38 states, and he should publish it in the Federal Register. He absolutely should. Thanks so much for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us, and that includes you. So get out there, get active, tag. You're it. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon. Be good to yourself and the people around you. Stay safe. We'll catch up with you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
Well, time is getting tight, and I need you to take this very seriously. We, Free Speech TV, for a couple of years, we were doing fund drives that were running 3 and 4 weeks, and it was just kind of really stretching out. And they decided, let's just do nice, tight 2 weeks, and just make it very clear to everybody that it's only 2 weeks that we're going to be talking about this. And get your contribution in if you want to participate in this extraordinary network. If you want to help keep this network going, if you want to be part of this network that has educated so many of us, right? I learned from Free Speech TV. I'm sure you learned from Free Speech TV. I love learning. It's one of the main reasons I do half of what I do. It's life constant. You constantly want to be learning through life, right? And this is one of the great educational pieces. Education is such a vital component. And, Free Speech TV understands that. And when you give to Free Speech TV, by way of education, for example, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, every single one of them autographed by the author. That's kind of cool, right? I like it because I'm the author, but I put a lot of work into those books. And I learned a lot in the course of writing them about guns, about health care, about the right to vote, about the Supreme Court, about, oligarchy. So with a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Cozy Kit, which includes the Free Speech TV cookie, the copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, and some other goodies that get thrown in. With a $100 gift, they will plant a tree for you. And as I said, with a $1,000 gift, you get all 10 books. So in that context, and in honor of the education we all get from Free Speech TV, here's President John Kennedy, May 18th, 1963, talking about that very topic.
But the educated citizen knows how much more there is to know. He knows that knowledge is power. More so today than ever before. He knows that only an educated and informed people will be a free people. That the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all. And that if we can, as Jefferson put it, enlighten the people generally, tyranny and the oppressions of mind and body will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of day. And therefore, the educated citizen has a special obligation to encourage the pursuit of learning, to promote exploration of the unknown, to preserve the freedom of inquiry, to support the advancement of research, and to assist at every level of government the improvement of education for all Americans, from grade school to graduate school. Secondly, the educated citizen has an obligation to serve the public. He may be a precinct worker or president. He may give his talents at the courthouse, the state house, the White House. He may be a civil servant or a senator, a candidate or a campaign worker, a winner or a loser. But he must be a participant and not a spectator.
There you go. President John Kennedy talking about education, and it's so true. And it's so sad to watch right now as we're up to, I believe, 4 or 5 states now that are doing statewide voucher systems to try to destroy their public education systems because Republicans hate teachers' unions and you know, they would really rather people were not all that well informed about civics and science and, you know, hey, let's just go with superstition. I mean, now you've got a couple of states where kids can learn religion during their classroom times. It's just crazy. Anyhow, we work hard to educate people here on Free Speech TV. Free Speech TV is a source of education. I think one of the better sources of education about certainly what's going on politically and what's going on, you know, with our republic and around the world, for that matter. So please call now 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. This network has just done such a spectacular job. The people who are running this network really work hard to keep it going, to keep, you know, the more smoothly things operate, the more effortless things seem, the more work went into them. It's one of the things about the media, and I think it's true probably for pretty much any art form as well. You know, whether it's writing or painting or whatever, that people just think, oh yeah, you know, you just open the microphone and talk, or oh yeah, you just set up a camera, and it's just no. A lot of work goes into putting these programs together. A lot of work. And a lot of work goes into keeping this network running, dealing with the business side of it, dealing with the economics of it. It's one of the reasons why monthly contributions, regular monthly contributions, if you sign up not just to get, you know, a one-time gift or make a one-time donation, but also to donate every single month so that Free Speech TV can budget, so that, you know, the people who are running the network can look at the budgets and say, oh, here's what we can expect. It's so important. It's just so important. So please consider making a one-time contribution and a regular monthly contribution. 877-378-8669, freespeech.org. Thank you so much for your support. Please call now.